Day 9. By now it was morning. We were back in the shuttle again, having decided to fly somewhere warmer and see if Squash and Woowa managed to shake off their experiences, or whether they would get sicker again when they warmed up. To our relief, they seemed to be none the worse, and Woowa in particular was eager to get back to Decreeta to see if she still had time to compete in the foosball final.
"It's always been my dream to compete on an international stage," she said sadly. "Though only if we can keep you all safe, of course. Though from what, I'm still not entirely sure."
We filled her and Squash in as best we could about what we thought had happened to them, and debated what to do next. Squash gnashed his teeth in anger.
We go. We tear down their planet, destroy their factories, hold them down while we poison them all with the same medicine they gave us. Dash, dash, dash.
We sympathise, said Lando, and can't say we blame you, but we'd only start up again on another planet somewhere if we did that, and then we'd get some other guinea pigs, and then we'd be going through what we are someone else in a few months' time. It's too big an industry to stop just by one act of sabotage.
Lando's right,
said Archdus.
What we need is to present all our irrefutable proof to someone in a position of power who'll believe us. Now what have we got?
We went round the shuttle cabin, sitting cross-legged in a circle, piecing our ideas together, while Woowa ate ice cream pills from the shuttle dispenser. We had the red weed itself, safely sealed in bags, in both its original form from the Flora Potionus and the pills we had been given. We had Dr. Hooster's test results saying all was normal. We had bottles with our own faces on. We had the photographs we'd taken at the TV monitors and the list on the wall. We had my notes. We didn't have much else, though.
"No one's going to believe us, are they?"
asked Margalo sadly.
"But a bunch of children and a foosball player."
I'm out,
said Archelaus, peering through his dimensionally transcendent bag and pulling out his Bunsen burner.
Time for a few medical tests, I think.
He broke off a portion of the red weed in its purest, lavaest form and looked at it under his portable microscope.
"It's very active,"
he said.
"All the cells are buzzing like the clappers. Goodness knows what that stuff does when it's inside us."
Reaching round for some of the ice from Frigorus that was still dangling from Margalo's antlers, he turned off the burner, then thrust the ice onto the weed and looked at it again.
"Almost completely inactive again, instantaneously,"
he said.
"Well, maybe this is the proof we need for someone in authority. Science doesn't lie, after all."
"Yeah, right,"
said Hermione.
"What about all the stuff that's been disproven even since our science books were written? All 11 scientists around the universe had to rethink everything about the way the world worked when we all met up. Even now, scientists are always coming up with some new theory that disproves the last one."
Coughed the Mekkion.
"Well, you have a point there. Science has had its moments of half-truths down the years. There's surely enough facts here to force through an investigation, though."
"So who do we go to?"
asked Bettina.
"The police." "I can't see them listening to a bunch of children,"
scoffed Hermione.
"The president, then. He wasn't much good, was he?"
scoffed the Habridat. Hang on, said Robin. Maybe we've been going about this the wrong way, looking at the damage the red weed has done to us. But what about the damage red weed has caused to the environment? Didn't we read there was a conference of scientists taking place on Decreeta the same week as the Olympics? They're the brains of the universe. They've got to have an open mind, if we show them the facts.
Why, yes,
said Elfrida, getting out a political sticker book.
the Cop-Out 11 conference. I've forgotten all about it, and it's taking place today. Well done, Penguin.
"Perfect,"
said Archelaus, rolling up his evidence to put carefully in his pocket.
"Back to Decreeta it is."
"Oh, good,"
said Woowa.
"I might still be in time to take part in the Olympics, too."
She paused, worried.
"Wait, do you think I'll pass the drugs test with this stuff in my system?"
Archelaus waved a gadget over her skin.
"Absolutely,"
he said.
"Any trace of the red weed has died away now. You're free to play, if only we can get you there in time. I think that must be what the other athletes have been doing, giving their blood samples when cold, and then reigniting the red weed before their matches by making themselves really hot. It's a foolproof plan to bypass the usual athletic regulations and gain an unfair advantage of sporting prowess, so no wonder so many athletes were taking it."
"You're as fit as a flan now, Wubba,"
said XXXX, smiling, as Archelaus pushed the shuttle into taking off at a super-fast pace. We were coming into orbit around Decreeta when Bettina noticed a large pyramid on the edge of the world that hadn't been there before.
"Where did that come from?"
she said.
"That wasn't there when we left Decreeta. Even Elfrida would have noticed a whacking great pyramid like that one.
Uh-oh, said Hermione.
Does that remind anyone else of anything?
How awful, said Robin. We're too late to stop them. Well, said Lando, trying to be optimistic, maybe there was just a sale on pyramid architecture this season. It doesn't necessarily mean something bad's happened. It's a rather fun shape after all. Archelaus roughly sized up the dimensions using a robotic arm that had a built-in tape measure.
Afraid not,
he said.
This pyramid is an exact replica of the one on Potions.
He refocused its robotic eyes to get a better view.
I can also see the start of what appears to be a pool of red liquid seeping out of the bottom, and the beginnings of the crack in Decreeta's pristine surface layer of soil already. I fear this is more handiwork from our Potionus friends. Or maybe it's another buyer who's seen a chance to make more profit of their own by moving the manufacturing a bit nearer and cutting down on the transportation costs. Either way, it's bad news, I'm afraid. Soon every planet might look like this when the word gets out. Perhaps in a few years, or even a few months, when everyone is trying to make money from it.
And suffer the same earthquakes and volcanoes? Robin shivered. Horrible. We landed as far on the outskirts of Decreeta as we dared, just in case someone was still looking out for us, although we also figured we were as safe on the planet we'd been captured on as any. For all we knew, any scout ships were hovering around Potianus, waiting for us. Already we were being hit by slight ominous rumbles, as if the ground was being shaken hard, but a long way away. Oh no, said Robin. This was such a beautiful planet. Surely they can't have destroyed the environment here already. We looked on as the side of the Intergalactic Peace Museum, which had symbolised such hope and unity, symbolically crumbled to the ground in pieces.
Usually I like destruction,
said Squash.
But this is just mindless violence. But today.
Surely that's sign enough that something's not right so that people will put a stop to this, asked Robin. Elfrida grimly shook her head.
Only if the people in power agree. It's amazing how many beings turn a blind eye to things that the people in charge of them tell them not to look at something. You must remember the history of your own planet. When money is involved, species can have a real death wish sometimes, especially if it's future generations who get hit with the bill, not them.
Well, there's not much more we can do from here,
said Bettina.
Where do we land?
Wilbur showed us a secret place the intergalactic athletes had used to avoid the crowds, a landing patch in the middle of the forest on the outskirts of the Olympic village.
We should be safe here. Read for now, children,
said Wilbur.
Let me go and see if the coast is clear. Then we'll sneak off back into the Olympic village, and I'll see if they still need me on the foosball team.
Do be careful, Lando said.
Extra careful,
said XXXX.
Like when you open an Easter egg with toys inside and you don't want to lose any. Or when you're trying to balance a large bowl of soup on a nut tray.
Oh, do you have Easter? Asked Robin, surprised.
Oh, this is meeting humans,
said Wilbur.
It's great. We've adopted the culinary bank holidays of all religions and societies from all 10 other planets as well as our own. There's only 3 days a year we aren't celebrating something with food and festivities. I love them all. I'm even starting to get a taste for the gefilte fish on human Passover.
Wilbur stuck a head round the corner of our landing site and was immediately recognised. Withdrawing a head in immediately, we heard a sudden clamouring of autograph hunters. In all the fuss and confusion, we'd forgotten how much of a celebrity Wilbur was, and how much of a stir her non-appearance over the past couple of days had been. Where have you been? Who are your friends? Have you been in training? Did you take too much of this red weed stuff we kept hearing about and overdose? Can I have your autograph? Would you like a banana?
How are we going to get past that lot?
Asked Wilbur, looking concerned.
They're everywhere. They're sure to draw attention to us.
Let me bash them down,
said Squash, very much back to his old self again.
Bash, bash.
No, said Lando, they're just fans, like we were a couple of days ago. Save your bashing for the people who deserve it.
Justin, reporter of the global Glabdiharbit,
said a furry figure, squeaking his way in just as Wilbur was shutting the shuttle doors again.
Would you care to give us an interview about where you've been?
He shook.
Assuming, of course, that it isn't too scary for our readers.
Wilbur opened her mouth to shout no, then thought better of it.
Well, children,
she said,
do you think we should get our side of the story across? I am in a hurry, though. Can you get us past the crowds?
Asked Bettina. The Glabdiharbit nodded.
Then we'll give you an exclusive as we walk, and it's a blooming great one too, if I say so myself. but please help us get Wubberworth to a foosball team. You'll have an even less feel-good story on your board.
The Glabdiharbit reporter held the door open and squeaked in a high-pitched voice, looking important.
Celebrity Doosbury Giant coming through! Please make way, folks!
The crowds parted, looking not so much like a red sea as a red weed, as entrails parted in one direction, and then another, the crowd licking the sides of a small alleyway we landed in as we parted through the middle. Together we marched to the Olympic village, Wubberworth at the head.
What?
Said QQQ, the Doosbury coach, rubbing his eyes.
Is it really you? Or have I been eating magic mushrooms by accident?
The athlete smiled.
No, it's really me. These children saved me. Boy, have I got a story to tell you over dinner later. It's one that's going to last several courses. I'll save it for now,
said the coach.
We need to get you fed and trained and fed and rested and fed and ready to play, quick. We only have a few hours before the closing ceremony. We were worried we'd have to default. Oh, it's so good to have you back, Phil. I was so worried.
Wubberworth reached out with a hug, and soon he was calling to his team to action, so put away the last of their pre-match meals.
We don't have long before the foosball finals before we forfeit the match. You look pale and underfed. We must train you up quickly,
he said, stuffing a large pie into Wubberworth's hands and leading her away. Wait, said Robin, grabbing hold of the arm that didn't have a pastry in it. Don't split us up so soon. We've been through a lot together.
We need you too, though. I'm not letting you out of my sight again.
The coach pulled on Wubberworth's other arm, crushing the pastry skin and ending up covering squash with jam. The Doosbury Giant looked us up and down, torn.
I don't know what to do,
she said hopelessly.
Surely it's no contest,
said Bettina.
We need to stop these dastardly villains. It's a matter of life and death. Remember your responsibilities as an adult. We need you. You're the only person anyone's likely to listen to. This was always your dream,
said QQQ.
It might not come again, and it won't happen unless you come now. We'll almost certainly lose without you.
There was a beat whilst Wubberworth looked in both directions.
Please come with us. We need you,
said XXXX.
No, please come with us. We'll need you more,
said QQQ.
I don't know what to do. I feel torn in two,
Wubberworth said.
Like a baguette with a split down the middle.
She turned to us.
I hate being an adult. So many choices, so many times when both of the choices are wrong. No wonder I ran away to become an athlete and extend my youth that precious bit longer. You see, I'm really not so different from you.
But we are responsible, said Robin. We look out for each other, come what may. We need you to stop these people before they kill everyone. Well, a lot of people anyway. I've seen what damage red weed has caused on my homeworld. I can't bear the thought of it happening elsewhere.
Yes, but that problem has been growing for weeks,
said Wubberworth.
This might be my last chance to do what I'm good at, and I only have a few hours. Camalosian's bearded comet. This might be your last chance to do anything at all,
said Bettina.
Those evil men are still here. He wouldn't be back on this planet at all without us.
QQQ took out a picture from his pocket.
Remember this?
He said to Wubberworth.
This gold medal you said you'd wear around your neck one day. Do you recall what you said to me the day I drafted you into my team? What does gold taste like, you said. I want to find out. Well, here's your chance. It's one you've trained for your whole life.
Wubberworth opened her mouth, but shut it again, looking back at us sadly.
Abandoned again by an adult,
sighed Hermione before she had even opened her mouth.
This is great,
said the reporter, writing everything down and getting a close-up of the pie.
Such great metaphors. You just wait till I send this off to my editor and the Camalosian champion. Your name was Scissor, wasn't it? And you're a golfer? And these are all your children? No, don't tell me. I've got all the facts I need. This story can't possibly get any better. I've clearly got the full scoop here. I'm going to go and file it now.
But nobody except me ever noticed him.
Come with me,
Wubberworth said.
Once this is all over, we go together. No,
said Bettina stubbornly.
Saving people is our priority. We have to make people listen. That would be easier with you there, but we can do it without. We've done it before.
Hold it. I think I see a way,
said Elfrida.
Come with us en masse. Give us protection. Help us get an audience of the world leaders at the Cop-Out conference. Make sure they hear our story. Then come back and train. Hopefully we'll be able to join you when this is all over for the actual match and see you get that gold medal.
A typically brilliant Mrasianart compromise.
Wubberworth looked at her gratefully and turned to her team.
We can do that, can't we?
The athletes all nodded.
Then let's hurry.
She added to Elfrida as we walked.
Thank you. That was an impossible situation. I couldn't see a way out of it. You are wise beyond your years, all of you come to that.
What are friends for?
smiled the Mrasianart.
We're not wise,
Muttered Hermione.
we're friends. It's adults that grow selfish. Where is the cop-out conference taking place anyway?
Asked Bettina.
This way.
Said Elfrida, taking out a political sticker book.
See, aren't you glad I brought this thing with me now?
Psst, said the shadowy figure as we were walking past. Only Lando and I could hear it, given that we were the nearest, so we walked over to listen. It was a young and friendly-looking Mekkion. Oh, said Lando brightly, are you here on a school trip too? Is it the Olympics fun?
No,
said the Mekkion, lights flashing.
I'm from Friends of the Red Weed. We're part of an underground sect that's, underground.
Oh, you live in caves too, asked Lando, but the Mekkion just whirred and blinked, on and off. I went to call back the others, but as I did so, the Mekkion put a hand over my mouth.
No,
You said.
I don't know if I can trust them.
What makes you think you can trust us? Asked Lando.
An open-hearted Clandusprod, like Camalosian who can never lie.
He said.
You seem pretty safe bets. But not them,
He said.
humans and Belobrats and Habridats and Doosbury Giants and Maggrumph and so on. The Belobrats would do anything to save their souls. Habridats would do anything to get out of something. The Doosbury Giants would sell their soul for the right type of biscuit. The Maggrumph can't be trusted as far as I can throw them. That's for the humans, well.
I see your point in regard to their species, said Lando, but they are all my friends, and I would trust them with my life. How do I know I can trust you? The Mekkion half shrugged.
I'm a child like you, and a Mekkion. It's only logical that I should tell the truth. Anyway, it's your funeral. Tell us where your shuttle is parked, and we'll get it for you, and hide it with our secret base to keep it safe. I'll give you the coordinates.
He handed over a scrap of paper and told us to give it to our Mekkion. In return, Lando explained where our shuttle was parked. Wouldn't want it to fall into the wrong hands, would we? The Clandusprod laughed.
Exactly,
cackled the Mekkion.
that would be most illogical. Good luck fighting the red weed. Down with the adults,
He said.
I'll be in touch.
Nice lad, said Lando as we walked off. Wait a minute, though. How did he know we were against the red weed? Especially if we've been identified in all the bottles as being for it. Oh well, he seemed harmless enough. I mean, what's a child going to do to us? Class 5C trooped along in the middle of the 11 Doosbury Giant foosball players, dwarfed by our companions. We felt safe for now, but we still held hands, flippers, hooves, paws, claws, wings and robotic arms, and kept a sharp eye out for any wrongdoers, me on the end of the line next to Lando, so I could continue scribbling down my thoughts. After all, it wasn't so long ago on this planet when we were being shot at. As we walked, the foosball team fed us with all their stray bits of food, till soon even XXXX was full. We made it up the steps to the Decreeta City Hall. It looked different to the pictures of it in President Eleron's day, and was tucked round the opposite end of the village to the Peace Museum, so it was structurally safe and protected from the earthquakes. Back then, universe-saving politics by proper respected politicians were concocted in a ramshackle hut, built from the hands of multiple species stapled together. This time, though, we were in a large and plush building that had clearly had some money spent on it, with the comfort of the politicians in mind, especially their Glabdiharbit president, given the ginormous table encrusted with jewels in the main entrance. What if brilliant politicians could work in ramshackle buildings, I thought. Just think what great minds must work amongst a building this grand. We walked up to the main entrance, where the Doosbury Giants dropped us off.
11 children to see President J,
Said QQQ.
and all the other environmental conference leaders. It's a matter of some urgency,
Added Willa,
life and death.
Are you a bit young?
blinked the guard at us.
Only 2 of my head, sir.
Blinked Bettina as the heads of the queue, and lying through her many teeth.
The other one is much older.
Not knowing much about Belobrat physiology, the Mekkion guard looked confused.
Where are you from?
He pointed to XXXX.
You, that's it.
Orpheus,
He said.
What solar system is that in?
the Earth one,
Said XXXX, put on the spot.
Mars, Galaxy, Bounty, Crunchy, Twix, Flake, Teaser. Oh, the Milky Way. See, I knew it was something chocolatey.
Said XXXX hastily, after Archelaus whispered in his ear. Said the guard and moved.
No one from Orpheus on my list. I don't think that's even a real planet.
You've got to let us through, said Robin desperately. Lots of people are going to die unless we stop it. The guard shrugged.
You're only children.
Yes,
Added Elfrida.
children who've been forced to be adults very quickly. Remember the days of President Eleron and the intergalactic invasion, when he nearly wasn't taken seriously in time because he was small. This is a similar thing.
The guard shrugged.
At least he was an adult. You're full of your children.
Aren't you clear you have nothing to lose by letting us through?
Said Archelaus.
We are unarmed.
In order to demonstrate this, he detached one of his arms and showed it to the guard. One of them used a scanner on us, which beeped when it came near Archelaus.
That's not what this scanner said. There's something very dangerous here according to these readings. Children can still be a threat. You're not coming in.
Wait,
Said Hermione.
so we're not important enough to listen to, but we're still serious enough to pose a threat to you? That's ridiculous. Typical adult logic. It's like when we're not allowed to vote, we can still earn and pay taxes and fight in wars and stuff. Please let them through,
Said QQQ.
so we can go back to our game in peace.
Oh well, said the guard, making way.
If it involves sport, then that's different. That's of vital importance. Far more so than life or death. Go straight through.
He nodded to us, and we walked past, waving goodbye to the elder Doosbury Giants as we did so, only for us to come up against another pair of Agrosian guards guarding the inner chamber. Oh no, sighed Robin. We shouldn't have let the Doosburys go so early on. Should we call them back? But Bettina was desperate not to waste any more time.
Let us through.
She said again.
This is of vital importance.
No, true.
Said the pair of Agrosian guards together. Said Squash as he surprised us by losing his patience and running headfirst into them.
Crush.
They said as they pushed him back.
Thrush.
Yelled Squash as he tried again.
Trash.
The guards said as they threw him backwards.
You don't understand.
Pleaded Bettina.
This is a matter of life and death.
Sash.
Said one of the guards, pointing at what he was wearing. Please let us in, tried Robin. We are friends of the President. We really are. Or at any rate, we know him. Look, how do other people get in to see the President?
Cash.
Said one of the guards, before being told off by his neighbour. Archelaus stepped up and said,
Look, we even know his presidential code.
and rattled off the symbols he'd overseen President J use the last time we met.
7426-Apple-BTTG-7546239.
Only it didn't seem to do anything,
That's odd.
the Mekkion muttered.
I'm sure that's what the code was. I remember everything.
Cash.
Added Squash instinctively. Suddenly a pillow fort came out of a secret compartment in the wall that clearly belonged to President J. That seemed to make the guards unsure of themselves. Squash whispered to them,
This is a matter of urgency. 5 exclamation marks. No kidding.
knowing that a fellow Agrosian wouldn't lie about the amount of exclamation marks needed in a sentence. The guards were shocked enough to loosen their grip on us, just enough to let Bettina, Lando, Robin and me through, while behind us I could hear Squash and the others slowing down the guards.
Splash. Splosh. Splash. Splosh. Splash.
Just then Glabdiharbit President J turned up, looking far more regal than the last time we had seen him, with his long candy floss fur in a mess on top of his head, which contrasted against the tuxedo he was wearing, and which seemed ill-fitted to his tiny paws.
Good way to miss you, dude.
Said a Doosbury Giant bouncer grandly, from behind a giant container.
Agnostic Agrosian antimatter, will somebody please listen to us before I burst, and before it's too late?
Demanded Bettina.
I'm so sick of adults telling us they're busy when they're not.
President J turned round to face us.
What's all the noise?
He ooped.
I'm trying to watch the Doosbury Opera with my bigly buddies from the Cop-Out Conference. It's all an important part of our conference. Oh wait, you're the missing children, aren't you? The ones I was talking to in the Intergalactic Peace Museum earlier. I see you found yourselves again. You'll have to stay found a bit longer, I'm afraid. We're all hard working here.
Orbiting optical warp clouds.
Exploded Bettina.
Will somebody in power please just listen to us for a change? We are all in great danger, maybe the entire civilized universe, and it needs to be stopped. Now!
Nothing stops for culture.
Squeaked President J grandly. Listen to the ground shaking, yelled Robin. We know what's causing it, and how to stop it. Half the Peace Museum has fallen apart already. People will get hurt. Jay shrugged.
I never liked that museum anyway. Who cares about the past when you're in charge of the present?
Some fine conference this is.
Snarled Bettina, staring past the president of the 10 environmental world leaders who were all gulping at the stage.
Look at you all, on the fiddle while the planet burns.
This is a leading Doosbury Giant violinist, I'll have you know, from the Doosiest Philharmonic Orchestra.
President J lowered his eyes.
Your teacher warned me about you.
He squeaked.
No patience at all. I see she was right. We are working hard at studying this delightful Doosbury Opera. Part of being a great president is taking in all art forms, after all. President Elleron knew that.
Bettina exploded, impatient of being labelled impatient.
Quivering quadriprodic quasars. You lot would break the patience of a Camalosian. Listen to me. People are going to die. Lots of people. Right now, if you don't do something. Being a great president means reacting to stuff when it happens on your watch. President Eleron knew that too. We'd all be dead 100 years ago. Yes, he liked art, but he promoted it during years of peace, not while the universe was falling apart. There's a time and place for everything. You should understand responsibility. You're not just an adult, but the president, the most responsible adult of all.
President J raised a furry eyebrow and squeaked.
Children should be seen and not heard, or smelled, preferably not even that. This is adult business. You wouldn't understand. Now wait quietly, or I'll have you evicted.
Sit down, said Lander to his classmates with a sigh. It's no good. They won't listen to us until this noise is over. The rest of the class trooped in, XXXX carrying the two Agrosians with him.
I'm a tiny,
said XXXX, with one under each arm, before setting them down in a seat. The president had already taken back his seat next to all the other leading dignitaries in the Cop-Out 11, each of them dressed in either tuxedos or ball gowns, and adorned with tiaras and pearls. They all had a glass of something see-through, collected in a giant glass, clutched in each limb, and they lounged around with the same distantly soporific smiles and the look of people unused to a range of emotions, who have only ever known greatness, luxury, or boredom throughout their lives. Each of the individuals was sat in front of a giant banner that gave out their names and their planet. For some reason all of them were called J, male or female, with the exception of the Doosbury Giant, whose name was simply the letter J. Why are they all called J? Whispered Robin.
I don't know,
Whispered back Elfrida.
Maybe they're all named after the president, or maybe all mean people are called J.
Elsewhere there was a giant screen where other beings were talking. Each of the class recognised the alien related to their own planet, sometimes as disgraced politicians, others as convicted criminals, and pointed them out to each other in turn.
That's Theo Alma, relative of Alma Theo, who nearly destroyed Mars in the Day of Insurgents,
whispered Elfrida.
That's my wife,
said XXXX.
He used to be the economic minister on Deuceus, but he was impeached for stealing peaches.
That's Astra,
whispered Archelaus.
She was an early prototype on Mekkion 1 that got a short circuit and went rogue. She nearly piloted our planet into our sun before someone stopped her.
That's Horace Johnson, Mavis Cameron, Ronald Trump, Duncan Ian Smith, Theresa June, Tiz Luss, and Almira Putin, all kicked out of the Earth Council for robbery, fraud and treason, added Robin. For my part, I recognised Christina, a formerly distinguished member of the House of Lord Lizards, before she got the boot for charging thousands of pounds in expenses to warm up the water in the moat that ran past the Rajibrath stables and Duck Pond during the great Camalosian recession of 19547563838845 AGD JHSK-72-Apple.
They don't look like the world's greatest minds to me,
whispered Bettina.
I'm surprised some of them can tie their own shoelaces.
She looked at Robin's feet and noticed they were undone again.
No offence, Penguin,
she mouthed. Robin just laughed and tied them up.
Wait, none of these are the politicians in my sticker book,
said Elfrida, whispering, getting a copy out and checking.
This list is full of the greatest, wisest and noblest leaders, but the ones I recognise are all known charlatans.
What are they all doing here? Asked Robin. I'm watching opera, of all things.
Have we got the wrong room?
Asked Archelaus.
That would be the only logical conclusion. Yet I saw the sign on the door with my own eyes when we came in. Fact.
Oh, great, something's gone wrong again.
Hermione rolled her eyes.
Well, wherever I am, the seat's comfy, so I'm going to have 400 winks quick before the next crisis hits. Wake me up when it's time for the apocalypse.
On stage, a Deuceus actress in a horned helmet was singing her big aria and taking an eternity to die, her arms outstretched.
How much longer does this go on?
Whispered Bettina.
We're trying to save the universe here, and all we want to do is watch the posh singing. I've had about enough of adults making us wait while the universe burns.
No, wait,
whispered Elfrida back.
We'll only get chucked out till we try something again. Far better to wait and do something on the adults' terms. Diplomatically.
All right,
said Bettina.
But if the universe boils over while we're waiting here, we're going to look pretty foolish. We'll die with that look on our faces and be remembered like that forevermore.
This is way too long and circumlocutive, I complained, even for a Camalosian. They need a good editor. You're just lucky it isn't an Earth opera, whispered Robin. They're even longer. There's one by Wagner about the search for a washing machine on a rinse cycle or something. It lasts for 12 hours.
12 hours?
Bettina hissed back.
That's about it.
Asked Bettina hopefully as there came a pause in the music.
No,
Grimaced Hermione as another singer stepped up.
it's not over until the fat Doosbury's finished singing.
XXXX whispered.
Don't worry, it's nearly over. About half an hour or so. She's on her deathbed, dying of thirst because she forgot it was a public holiday, and all Odysseus off-lights since are shut. It's an aria entitled Martini Hand is Frozen. She's dying from non-consumption. It's a terrible tragedy on Odysseus.
Singing like that, I'm not surprised.
Said Hermione sarcastically as she dared.
Plus at her weight, it's going to take years to starve to death. Just a look.
Looking at the other dignitaries, most of them seemed as bored as we were. Various aliens were looking at their watches. The Doosbury Giant was eating popcorn noisily. The Habridat was asleep. Only the Glabdiharbit president was enraptured. Beautiful! He sniffed as the Doosius actress finally fell to her death on the stage with a ginormous crash.
Oh, no, you don't,
Said Bettina quickly as she marched up to the dignitaries, like a galumphary on wheels that's been pulled back for so long it has to burst at speed.
President's guests, please, we have important news. The universe is in danger. We've discovered the cause of the earthquakes and volcanoes and red pollutants. It's all because of that stupid red weed stuff some rogue aliens have been growing. We suspect they've been using a new compound created by combining elements of a periodic table unique to each of the 11 planets. It's eaten through most of the planet they manufactured it on already, and it's only a matter of time before it does so everywhere else too. We have reason to think that it's destabilising the planet's core, so that it creates earthquakes and volcanoes, not to mention raising the temperature of the planet so that global warming increases. Every planet will be like the Earth used to be, before the Mekkions came along. By the time we try to rescue all 11 planets at once, this time it might be too late for those of us living on them. Plus they've been selling it for personal consumption and poisoning people. We suspect that on this very planet athletes have been using it to cheat and are then selling it to their population back home. We have every bit of proof you might need with us, if only you'll listen to us and confiscate all bottles of this toxic substance right away.
There was a pause.
Is that all? I've heard of this red weed you speak of.
Squeaked Jay, stroking his chin.
Children, you're all mistaken. I have it on authority that it cures all ailments, illnesses, boxes, curses, and maladies. Why, I've tried some myself. It's quite made my fur grow.
Even Bettina was too polite to point out the bald patches she could see that had formed already since the last time she and the president had met. However, she wasn't so polite that it stopped her thrusting a beaker of red liquid in Jay's face.
Here,
She said,
I insist you get your scientists to do a chemical analysis and see for yourselves just what's inside this bottle, and see what it does on the bodies of all 11 species.
It's not fit for consumption.
said Archelaus, handing over a stream of data that shot out of a cavity in his chest.
Plus, it's bad for the environment.
I waved my notes of our experiences during the past 9 days or so in his face. What's going on, Jay? Asked the Earth President. Who are all these children?
Yes,
Said Maggrumph Jay, his nostrils flaring and his antlers flashing.
I'm not in the mood. This is all very rude. You lot don't float my boat. And anyway, you're all too young to vote, so the lot of you get out of here, dudes.
Achoo!
Sneezed Habridat Jay in agreement before going back to sleep.
It's nothing, Jays.
Replied the Glabdiharbit president.
Just some nonsense about the environment and pollution, or some children's stuff like that. Nothing to do with adults at all. Hopefully the next opera will be starting soon.
Will you all shut up and listen?
Exploded Bettina.
For Decreeta's sake, stop distracting yourself with something made up and poncy when people of all species are dying on your watch in the real world, Mr. President, sir. Why was I born into a generation? It seems like every big incompetent idiot with power is an unsuitable white alien called Jay.
Complained Hermione bitterly under her breath.
Why is there no one young and relatable around anymore?
Wait,
Said Elfrida, the colour draining from her face.
is everyone here called Jay? Men and women?
Everyone nodded except for the Doosbury Giant, who pointed to the J letter on his name tag.
And this isn't the Cop-Out Conference at all. It's the new universe order. But I thought it was just a rumour.
Explain it to me like I'm thick.
Said Bettina.
What's the new universe order?
A group of the most richest and most powerful beings in the universe.
Said Elfrida.
The ones who pull all the strings politically behind the scenes, but don't necessarily get all the attention. Some say their influence runs all the way through every inhabited planet in the universe.
So what happened to the Cop-Out Conference? Asked Robin.
I don't think there ever was one.
Said Archelaus thoughtfully.
It was all a front, wasn't it? An excuse for politicians to meet up and discuss our plans. To make you look good in the eyes of your voters. You don't really care about the environment, do you? No wonder nothing ever seems to get decided in any of these things. Once again, the people we trust to keep us safe do everything but.
Exactly.
Laughed Belobrat.
We're the greatest 11 heads of state ever assembled, or 13 if you count all my heads separately, which I do. And we're the greatest, and got where we did because we made it a policy to only care about the here and now. The future is for generations like yours to solve. We don't care about the environment, or overpopulation, or future annihilation. As long as we're free to wine and dine and party and comfort in our lifetimes, what do we care about the future of any world? Living is all about the here and now. That's why they call the present a gift, a present. As for the cop-out conference, well, the clue was rather in the name.
We're in trouble for doing the right thing for the wrong people again, aren't we?
Sighed Hermione.
Well, there's a surprise.
Here's the thing, though,
said Archelaus.
I don't know what people have been telling you, but this isn't some idle existential threat that might happen one day. It's a threat right now. It's right here, at our door. It destroyed the stability of Oceanus, a planet that used to be one of the quietest on our side of the universe, but is now punctured by volcanoes and shaken by earthquakes. The planet's core might be unstable, all because of the red weed we've been growing there. Earth is going the same way, so many of its population poisoned. We are already seeing the first signs of contamination on Decreeta after just a couple of days. Just think what would happen if every planet started manufacturing red weed for themselves. Nowhere would be safe. Never mind what it does to people's insides when we take it.
That's right, said Robin. Red weed killed my parents. I know it did. It will kill many more of us, of every species, if we don't stop it now. President J shrugged.
A small price to pay for luxury. We get a cut from every bottle sold, and all we have to do is sign contracts allowing these people to build on our planets without fear of reprisals. There are 100 new factories opening around the universe this week alone. If those people are so stupid to take risks, it's not my business to take those risks away. And anyway, red weed has done wonders to my complexion.
Doppler effect filled Doosburys,
explained Bettina.
That's exactly your job, to minimise risks. What is the President for if not to keep as many of us safe as possible? Just think of President Eleron.
Stuff President Eleron,
said Jay.
Here's history. I'm here now. Why should we listen to a scrawny bunch of kids like you? Even your Doosbury Giant is scrawny. For a Doosbury Giant anyway.
XXXX looked down at himself sadly.
You weren't scrawny till we ended up on Orpheus and were force-fed red weed.
Do you pay your taxes?
Squeaked the President.
Otherwise I'm not interested.
Yes, piped up Bettina.
This week, actually, we worked a whole day, well, an hour, without stopping. Well, Colin and Lando did anyway.
Continued the Glabdiharbit.
Well, you still can't vote, so my point stands. What do you think? Means nothing to me. You can't save everyone.
Sneered the President, which even in my attempts to write this neutrally for posterity seemed to be a most unpresidential thing to do.
Only children would think like that. Naively.
Then it's a good job adults have children around to remind them not to be so cynical, shouted back Robin. Letting people die when you know something causes them harm, whether it be drugs or pandemics or environmental disasters or economic crashes. I don't care what you make from it. It's inhumane.
Well,
said Jay.
in case you haven't noticed, I'm not human. Only one of my colleagues is, and they grew up on Maggrumph.
Yeah, butted in Human Jay. The way we see it is, the environment's been here for thousands of years. It's not going to end on our watch, so we meet up for a rest from the stressful job of running our own countries, and have a bit of a giggle, and an extra vacation. As for Doosbury's term, what we get to do to relax this conference, next time Belobrat Jay is going to take us hang gliding. Isn't that right, Jay?
That's right.
Said the Habridat Jay.
We're working very, absolutely, Jay.
You know best, Jay.
Added the Mrasianart Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Not about yourself, Jay. Great talking to you, Jay.
Added the Mekkion Jay.
Hooray for Jay!
Added Maggrumph Jay. Please listen, implored Robin.
We have facts and evidence.
Added Archelaus.
Important.
Added Squash.
You should be thinking about your vocations, not your vacations.
Said Elfreda deploringly. Why can't we all just get along, moped Lando?
You're all just asleep.
Moaned Hermione.
Great big Belobrat billy goats,
exploded Bettina.
We have the answer to the very thing you were originally meeting up to solve, that might save us all from a devastating future, and you're not even paying us any attention.
There was a sudden rumble beneath our feet, and the building shook.
Feel that?
demanded Bettina.
That's red weed being manufactured, that is. But each time it's made on a new world, that planet screams. Do you want this to be your legacy, Mr. President? A destroyed world? A poorly population? Or because you were too corrupt to say no when you had the chance to?
You can't fool me,
said the President.
That was just a Doosbury Operas singer falling over, begging for method, I should think.
No, screamed Robin, you're not listening.
That's quite enough,
Squeaked Intergalactic President Glabdiharbit.
What do you know about the future? You're just flipping kids. I know we made friends earlier when you came to visit the museum, but I can't have youngsters like you shouting your loud mouths off. My reputation is very important to me. Guards, escort these trespassers out of here and have them deported and returned to the school forthwith. Now, fellow Copal Conference members, the next opera is about to start. It's the Belobrat of Seville. Or is it Doosbury Giant? Or Mrasianart the butterfly? Clandusprod Carmen? I forget.
No, we're going,
sighed Bettina, defeated as we walked through the door.
You'd better remember our warnings when the planet disintegrates, though.
It's the worst part of growing up,
sighed Elfrida as we left.
Realising that there's nobody out there with your best interests at heart who's willing to act to keep you safe.
Yes, children,
said a Belobrat behind us who'd been sitting in the shadow on the far corner of the room and who caught us up outside, out of earshot of the undignified dignitaries.
Run along, unless you want detention.
Squeaked Jake, recognising the frayed master first and rolling into a ball.
What are you doing here?
As part of the new universe order, it's important to be aware of trends, and one of those trends is red weed. You were useful to me as a research once, but then you became a danger before I'd had the chance to pitch my ideas to the President. But now you're nothing to me. I sit at the top of the giant pyramid of power, with everyone underneath me making money, all for me. Even the President and the other elite, not to mention those bumbling teachers and those manufacturers on Oceanus, who all think they're about to make their fame and fortune, and don't realise they're now addicted to the substances they create, so the only person who's going to make any money is me. I have your likenesses stored on computer and can manipulate them how I see fit. Since I last saw you, I've been busy. There's no need for the pyramid on Oceanus now. Every planet is manufacturing its own red weed, and even more profit for me. Every species is addicted now. It was a masterstroke getting all the Olympic athletes hooked, so they would tell their friends about it when they got home, as the athletes from the earlier matches have now. Business is booming like never before, and is only going to get bigger. As you can see, the President is fully alongside me, and everyone under him, thanks to a little, coercion. Did you know red weed also doubles as a truth serum at the right temperature? Very useful stuff, this Universalium. Red weed is perfect for blackmail. Or shall that be red mail? No, I will kill you all, but it's too much bother, and we're quite untouchable. No one will believe your stories you've seen today, not when it's your word against the universe's elite. Now run along. Anywhere, any world, I really don't care. We're going to take over them all in the end until the universe is full of beings manufacturing red weed out of addiction and paying their profits to me alone. Now just do what children do best. Forget about all this and move on with your lives. And watch us all grow rich from a distance. That will be your last homework. Anyway, I don't expect to see you around for much longer.
We will never forget, said Robin. Never, ever. And we all murmured our agreement.
If you like,
shrugged the headmaster.
I don't care anymore, as long as you keep out of my way. Of course, if you don't, I can still have you taken out any time I choose. Bang! You'll be dead, instantaneously. All of you. Remember, I have everything. You have nothing.
Now run along, boys and girls,
said Doosbury J, who had walked out to see what was going on.
before I eat you.
There was another rumble as we trudged away that made the nearby buildings around us shake, but City Hall was made with reinforced Mekkion concrete and didn't even quiver.
Look at that,
complained Elfrida.
It's like they knew there was going to be an earthquake when they built it. They didn't even move. What do they care about what's going to happen to the rest of us if it doesn't affect them?
It's like their ice cream,
said XXXX.
and we're jelly.
We trooped back to the stadium where the foosball match was about to be played. We're defeated then, said Lando. We may as well run away and live as long as we can, somewhere they've never heard of red weed. Those leaders have got access to people we could never dream of. No one will ever listen to us.
The nerve!
Exploded Bettina as we walked away.
The villain, sitting there, large as life, pulling the strings as we hoped we were talking to the hero.
His arguments were utterly illogical,
agreed Archdus.
How could anyone refuse to act during a catastrophe and enjoy the present if you think there's going to be no future?
It happened, sadly, said Robin. On Earth, in the 20th and 21st centuries, it looked like we were going to suffer imminent environmental collapse. Yet nobody did anything much at all, till you lot turned up to save us from ourselves.
You can't fight City Hall,
said Hermione sadly, as another rumble erupted and a second part of the Peace Museum gave way, but left the government buildings upright.
Especially if City Hall is the only building reinforced to stand in the event of environmental disaster.
Into every life some rain must fall, said Robin sadly. That's what my mother used to say.
Yeah, well, we all had a bunch of thunderstorms in our lives, didn't we?
Said Hermione savagely.
We're going to save as many people from themselves as we can,
said Bettina, through 3 pairs of gritted teeth.
There has to be a way.
We just need a sign,
said Elfrida, looking up at the sky forlornly.
Or a clue as to what to do.
Just to rub in the seriousness of our situation, there was an even louder volcanic rumble under our feet. A bunch of Glabdiharbits from the rival foosball team rushed out their cloakroom because of the noise, squeaking. Many of them seemed to be eating some sort of strange substance. A strange red substance.
Aha!
Said Bettina.
What's that I see? Quick, let's go down to their dressing room and snoop around. People always seem to take sport more seriously than politics on every planet for some reason. Maybe we can prove that one team has an unfair advantage. Someone will investigate and find out about all the other bad side effects.
We agreed and followed her down to the other side of the foosball auditorium as quickly and quietly as we could. Something that was completely wasted when Robin tripped up in the doorway. Oops, she said, falling against the open door and right bang on top of the Clandusprod, knocking him into a cauldron full of glowing red weed. I'm very sorry, started Robin before she turned round. I noticed who it was. You, she said, puzzled, as Lando and XXXX helped pull the figure out. It was Mr. Clandusprod.
Wait, what?
Said Bettina.
Why aren't you an Orpheus?
He was every bit as surprised to see us. Wait, what? He said. Class 5C? Why aren't you locked up or dead?
What are you doing in the locker room of the Glabdiharbit foosball team?
Demanded Bettina. I could ask you the same, said Mr. Clandusprod, with as much decorum as he could manage, considering that he was still covered in sticky red weed. I suppose you followed me here. But blast the caretaker. He was supposed to be keeping a strict eye and ear on you. Well, you couldn't be bothered to hide the cameras and microphones. We all had to pretend they were meant to be there. Then it was always asleep who was meant to be monitoring you. I knew we should have replaced him, but, well, his family's in the Habra Mafiosa, and Mrs. Maggrumph owed him a job. She said it would be all right, but you'd be too thick to work anything out. I knew you weren't that stupid, though. I should have insisted we get someone else to do it. I suppose you're smart enough to be in on this racket too.
Yeah, well, we were first,
demanded Hermione.
What racket?
All right, said Mr. Clandus. Well, I'll tell you, for it won't matter when we capture you. Again, I'm helping the Glabdiharbit team win with the original batch of redweed, the one made on Orpheus, the first ever made anywhere in the universe, before operations were widening out to Oceanus. Running a school was great cover, for who would think to go looking round? Even when you got those inspectors snooping and didn't find anything. It was all going swimmingly. We even managed to cover up our first aborted trials on Earth and Sycamore Planet, when so much red weed was dropped on the ground it started to sprout when near the hot core of both planets. Thankfully we fixed that now, thanks to certain experiments.
So you were involved,
said Bettina.
But what are you doing here?
Mr. Clandusprod looked angry, an alien expression on the Clandusprod. You lot ruined things for me, for us. We were in charge of a research team and were meant to be rewarded with lots of money, but our guinea pigs ran away the day before the final tests, when the thickest and most disobedient of you were all to have been cut up and finally tested. It was based on your house points. We were going to measure the smartest and most well-behaved of you one last time in front of the Olympic athletes and let you have a accident on the way home. When you ran away instead, so I was sacked, even though Mrs. Maggrumph was in charge of you, not me. I tried so hard to encourage you to get those house points you'd live a bit longer too. Felt a lot of good my kindness did me in the end. Now I feed our fleet's red weed from what's left behind of our original Orpheus batch, and betting on which side I've just fed to win. You lot have cost me a small fortune. It's my only chance to break even now, and I was set to be a quadzillionaire.
Yeah, right.
Said Hermione.
Always blame the youngsters. We haven't done anything to you. You did it all to us. Anyway,
Added Bettina.
I thought you were meant to be the nice teacher.
Maybe, sighed Mr. Clandusprod. I did try and save you by sending you all here the day of the final evaluation before the plan changed and Mr. Maggrumph took over. I thought I could save some of you at least, but a few dim students left behind being dissected would be all right, but adult things you wouldn't understand. You're just children.
Try it,
said Margalo, arms folded. Well, the truth is, I was never a good teacher. I wasn't much good in anything. They say on Zigger is free that if you can't do anything, we put you in the education clan, but it never suited me. Clandusprods are meant to love everyone, but I hated children. I spent far too much on gambling. You know the sort. Habridat racing, which cave clan would finish their jobs first, which Zigger is free's sons would shine first on Sprogmas Day, and got very into debt. Clandusprods aren't meant to deal with money individually. I very nearly got kicked out of the clan. When I couldn't pay my bills, the Maggrumph Mafia got involved, and I was free headhunted by the free headmaster, who's running this Red Weed company, Eternal Existence they're called. It seemed easy. All I had to do was look after 11 kids while they carried out research. I thought, how hard could it be? I'd been going with 30 of the little blighters. And one by one you lot turned up. He suddenly snarled, his face corrupted with a look of hate we'd never seen before. Good, industrious, uncorruptible, free-thinking, hard to manipulate or control. Everything I wasn't. I knew you were trouble, so at my request we brought in a teacher who was much tougher than me. A hardened criminal, wanted on 8 of the known planets. Mrs. Maggrumph, said Robin. Mum, said Margalo simply. Mr. Clandusprod carried on unabashed. I didn't believe everything they were telling me about what Red Weed did, but I figured with the sales figures they were projecting, the best I'd live forever, the worst I'd get rich enough not to care. I certainly wasn't going to make much money as a teacher. It's one of the most important professions there is, but also one of the worst paid. It's no wonder so many unsuitable people end up getting a job in it. So you put money over our lives? Asked Lando, distraught.
Figures,
sighed Hermione. But all those lessons, said Robin. Surely you were teaching us genuinely. Intelligence chests, said Clandusprod. We wanted to see how brainy each of you were, and whether Red Weed did as much to change your intelligence. He looked us up and down. Didn't do a lot, if I'm honest.
But you liked us,
said Bettina, stamping her feet.
You even gave us a pet Archibald. Why would you do that if you weren't just going to kill us?
Well, I didn't know I was going to like you, did I? Said Mr. Clandusprod. I was told you were the dregs of every school in the universe, unteachable ruffians everyone else had rejected. I didn't think for a second I was going to identify with the one to protect you all. Anyway, we were meant to only be testing you for side effects as part of the original plan. Then when it was realised that Squash was ill and what money we could make off you, we were asked to keep it all quiet. You would have been paid a handsome sum to keep silent too. Mrs. Maggrumph and me. Only you had to go and escape, didn't you? As for the Argibraft, we wanted to see if Red Weed could make any changes in Argibraft DNA too, the way it did in yours. We didn't seem to be particularly stronger or faster, so we gave up. We were told an Argibraft would respond better than the guinea pigs and hamsters to Red Weed according to the animal division of the company. Yes, we have several departments on several different planets, though none have been in much trouble as you flipping kids.
Maybe not,
said Bettina.
But he's definitely smarter.
Oh really? Asked Mr. C. We didn't think of testing him for intelligence. Anyway, who needs a smarter pet? We wouldn't have been able to market that very easily. Come to think of it, who needs smarter children? You're easier to manage if you're stupid and uneducated. So you really were watching us the whole time? Asked Robin. We found the recording equipment and monitors. Oh yes, said Mr. C. Free headmaster's orders. The wall next to you in the Grey Hall. It isn't really a wall, but a Mekkion projection. We've been watching you all, how you interact, how you respond to each other. It's been most entertaining and informative. You'll make a good book one day. I don't understand, said Robin. Why were you monitoring us? To see what the Red Weed could do for you. You all have different conditions, but your individual species find, shall we say, difficult. Just think how great it would be if we could put on the side of the label that it cured something or other. Like you, human, your dyspraxia makes you clumsy. Or you, Lando, your upbringing makes you a pushover. or XXXX the anorexic Doosbury Giant, or Elfrida the unspiritual Mrasianart, or Archelaus the emotional Mekkion, or Hermione the intensely driven Habridat, or Jake the overly scared Glabdiharbit, or Colin the shy Camalosian who talks in sentences that people can actually understand, or you, Bettina, the Belobrat with self-confidence issues, even Margalo who talks in longer sentences that don't always rhyme. You lot are secretly everything your species fear might happen to all of them. If we could have cured even one of you, then we would have sold billions of bottles to scared parents and teachers, desperate to have their children turn out nice, normal, well-behaved little citizens.
But that's not how it works,
Said Bettina quickly.
They're the traits that make us people. They're who we are, and they can be strengths just as much as weaknesses. Robin's reliant, self-reliant. Lando's so helpful and kind. XXX is so knowledgeable about food. Jake's cautioning instinct has saved us many times. Colin is super observant. Margalo is one tough, undefeatable Maggrumph. Elfrida thinks so well outside the box. Archelaus so well inside it. And I've learnt to listen to other people, but my opinions aren't always the only ones. More than that, we don't want to be all the same. Even the species that like being the same have learnt the hard way that's not the best way to be. Those who know us and love us wouldn't change a thing about us.
Well, said Mr. C scornfully, who loves you exactly? Isn't that why you're here? Because you're unloved? We love each other, said Lando forcefully, just exactly the way we are.
Yes,
Said Hermione.
there is nothing wrong with us, but there's something wrong with the system that wants people to get rid of their differences this badly.
Adults always go on about children's bad behaviour, but adults do far worse all the time and think they can get away with it, huffed Robin.
Making clones of everyone in any species is illogical,
Said Archelaus.
I myself have much I can teach my kind thanks to being wired differently. So do the others. We share our knowledge based on our differences and thinking for ourselves. We are weaker when our knowledge is replicated.
If you don't have differences in your species, then you're static.
Said Elfrida.
No evolution at all.
We're also much more than just an experiment,
Said Bettina.
even Margalo.
And Maggrumph glared at her, but didn't dare say anything. So we were just handed over to you by our government, said Robin sadly. Sold, said Mr. C simply. We were given money to take you off their hands, and the government ministers in on the Red Week Committee board made it easy for us. After all, you were faulty goods. After your families could no longer take care of you, for a whole bunch of reasons. Either your families or your governments left you to us in their will, to be studied, to be cured.
But you have no right to cure us,
Cried Hermione.
There's nothing wrong with us.
Mr. C continued. It was thought that by keeping you here together and dosing you up with tiny amounts of red weed, we could see what effect it had on you. If it improved any of you, then great, we could ship you back to your respective planets cured. If not, then, well, who was going to follow up about you anyway? You weren't the problems of your governments anymore.
That's monstrous,
Screamed Bettina.
There is nothing wrong with us. There's something wrong with you. That's despicable.
Indeed,
Said Elfrida.
we're normal, whatever anyone says. Each of us has only reacted in a natural way to a universe that's prepared to do things like this to them. I can't say the same for the outside world, and they all think like you do, though.
Absolutely, yelled Robin. My classmates are the kindest, cleverest, bravest bunch of any species I ever had the privilege to meet. They're all heroes, not zeros. Mr. C shrugged. We paid well. That was all that interested me. Archelaus sighed.
I see the logic, and even I don't see how you have the heart. I thought Clandusprod were supposed to be kind and compassionate.
Not all of us, said Lando. There are rogue Clandusprods. They used to be so full of themselves they went out of their caves into the wilderness, thinking they could make a better life for themselves on their own. Sometimes we kicked them out. They usually died. Isn't that what happened to you? Asked Mr. C. It's the same thing. Anyway, I chose to play their Clandusprodic games, and I lived just long enough to get out.
Was it the same with Mum?
Asked Margalo, so upset that Lando put an arm or three around her. Mr. C stared at her unwaveringly. Similar. She was in debt too. Her beloved husband got her addicted to the red weed and ran off. She couldn't pay her bills. The only thing she had to sell at the end was you. Did you never think to question where all the riches that used to be in your family came from?
I thought they all came from teaching.
Said Margalo, confused. Mr. Clandusprod snorted again. Teaching may be one of the most important careers you can take. That doesn't mean it is in any way well paid. No, she was a convict.
She had you all on the run from prison, scarpered off with lots of money, then kept moving around school so she couldn't be found, under a variety of names. You didn't think the Maggrumph surname was real either, did you? Your actual surname is von Maggrumph of Armenius.
No, said Margot, panicked.
No, you're just lying. You always lie. Adults always lie.
Yes, said Mr. Clandusprod, well, we can get away with it. And your mum did. She's part of the infamous Grey Twins, really. The biggest gangsters that ever scoured the universe. At any rate, they're the worst in our generation. And you come from the family. I can see a lot of character traits in you, I have to say. Bossy, cruel, vindictive, maybe a little evil.
No, said Margot.
I'm not like that.
She really isn't, said Lando, putting a comforting hoof on her shoulder. Not anymore.
Mr. Clandusprod shrugged. Not now, perhaps, but she was. He's rubbing around you lot. I don't know how you do it, but somehow the more strangers from different species we added to the mix, the stronger you lot became, corrupting everyone with your good and noble deeds. He spat in the corner. All I wanted was 11 meek children who did what they were told and wouldn't question what we made them do. Already broken children from broken homes, orphans whose families wouldn't miss them, or ask too many questions if things went wrong. Instead I got you lot, the flipping magnificent 11. Just my luck.
Just your luck, said Lando, turning on his fierce mode again. What about our luck? We've all had horrible lives. We've been through so much. We didn't deserve any of this. We didn't cause any of this. We're just children, and children are always paying the price of an adult's mistakes. At least you had a choice when you made bad life decisions. We shouldn't have had to go through any of this. We should have been protected from people like you.
Yeah, well, Mr. Clandusprod, you're all just children. You're not really people yet. You don't get to vote or do important things because you're not important. You don't really have any rights, if we're honest. You're just something adults put up with while you're growing. You're expendable, like cookie dough before it's been put in the oven and turned into biscuits. Even XXXX was horrified at the analogy. They usually love food-related metaphors.
No, we're not,
said Bettina huffily.
People are people, whatever age they are. We don't suddenly become useful when we reach a certain age. We all have rights.
We'll see what rights you have in prison, mocked Mr. Clandusprod. I'll get you on the charge of prescribing red weed to athletes. After all, it's your word against mine. Who's going to believe a load of runaway kids? I hope you enjoy your extra detention on the planet Incarcerus. Robin's quick ears heard footsteps marching outside, a fraction before even mine.
We're protecting our rights right now, she said, flinging herself into Mr. Clandusprod again, who fell into the red weed a second time, while she made a mad dash for the door, the rest of us following. We darted left and right, burrowing our way into a group of people we vaguely recognised, but had no time to fully identify. A flash of antlers suggested it was Mrs. Maggrumph. A glimpse of three heads suggested the three headmaster, as well as the Clandusprod and human from Oceanus. At the top of the stairs we collapsed into what looked like a Glabdiharbit in a policeman's uniform.
No,
He squeaked.
you shouldn't be in there. We're about to have a foosball match, you know. It's the most important thing that's ever happened on this planet since, we'd saved the entire universe a century ago. This is way more important,
Gnashed Squash, with 3 exclamation marks.
Quick, officer,
Said Bettina.
arrest those men and women.
They've been illegally doping the Glabdiharbit foosball team.
Gasped Elfrida as we all fled past him.
No. That's a very serious charge.
Squeaked the constable, addressing Mr. Clandusprod.
Seriously,
Said Elfrida.
it's a long story. We'll tell you everything we know, but only you'll please listen to us.
Archelaus came at last, panting and clutching the diodes on his left-hand side.
I'm getting too rusty for this.
He gasped, the adults hot on his robotic heels. Whatever those children have been telling you is a lie, officer, said Mr. Clandusprod. They're a bunch of monkeys. Even the species who aren't descended from them are monkeys. I'm a teacher, he ended grandly. We'll take them away with us in our shuttle and teach them a lesson. Don't you worry.
Don't listen to them, for goodness sake,
Said Bettina in despair.
They're crooks, a whole bunch of them. Just have a look in that cauldron in the changing room. It's full of their illicit substances.
Can I test this cauldron, sir?
The Glabdiharbit sniffed.
I can only smell red weed. A very pleasant smell, if I may say so. It's like lava, only with strawberries. Very warming.
Oh no, said Robin. Don't say they've got you too.
Oh, it's no good now,
Sighed Bettina.
The stuff's gone cold. Heat it up again while we test it. Then you'll see what you can do.
No time for that now, miss, said the constable. There is an intergalactic Olympics on, you know.
Oh, really?
said Hermione, rolling her eyes.
It's bad we hadn't noticed. I wonder why everyone was wearing tracksuits.
Nothing wrong with a bit of red weed,
said the constable.
It's very tasty. Zero additives. Says so on the packet. Not scary at all. Sometimes manufactured food scares me, but this says it's safe on the labelling, and it was passed by the Olympic Committee as harmless, so it must be safe.
Constable, said Mr. Clandusprod, grinning. How delightful to meet a Glabdiharbit of such rare taste. Let me give you a free taste.
Oh, delicious,
said the Glabdiharbit as it was handed over.
Now you children, I think you'll have to accompany me to the Decreeta station while we take some notes from your teachers. No,
said Elfrida.
We can explain everything if you just give us a chance to tell our side of the story.
I know what they say sounds logical to you,
said Archelaus.
but you're making a huge mistake you've based on an entirely erroneous hypothesis. Fact.
Just ask Walla,
said XXXX.
she'll tell you all about it.
Well,
chuckled the constable.
Between you and me, I think she needs to take some. She didn't seem to have much pep in her step the last game I saw her in, but like all the other players. Now come along with me to the station. It's only round the corner on Let's Be Avenue. Now let's be having you, and I'll just make a few notes to write this up.
He reached into his pocket for a notebook and wrote.
I was proceeding down the road in the forward direction.
Adults,
Scoffed Bettina as we were led away.
why don't they ever listen?
Anything for a quiet life, is it?
Said the constable.
Exactly.
Said Bettina.
That's the whole problem with adults right there. You miss everything of importance.
Now,
Said the constable.
you have the right to remain silent, but anything you say may be used against you in a court of law.
Same with you.
Snapped Bettina.
We have a Camalosian of our own who's writing down every word you say, and one day it will make you look so stupid.
The constable glowered and prepared to confiscate my last pencil. Thankfully, just then there was a rumble where the red weed was seeping through the floorboards down below, causing Robin to fall over. In doing so, she clutched at Squash, who also fell over, neatly on top of the Glabdiharbit policeman.
Sorry,
Yelled Bettina.
can't stop. Will's to save and all that.
Grabbing our Agrosian and human classmates up, we all ran as fast up the steps as we could. As we did so, I glanced back. The policeman looked confused. Mr. C started talking to him. We didn't stay long enough to hear what he said, so we were too busy running back to the Doosbury side of the stadium and relative safety. At least we've ruined their red weed supply, panted Robin, so the match is fairer. That's got to be a good thing, right?
I wouldn't put it past that creepy Clandusprod to bake some more.
Wheezed Hermione.
Well, that didn't work.
Puffed Bettina as we made it back to the Doosbury Foosballs team cloakroom.
What the sprod do we do now?
What we really need is to tell people about this.
Said Elfrida.
As many people as possible. But from here, in safety.
Quality not quantity, I think. Maybe we should call somebody specific.
Asked Archelaus.
Who's?
Said Bettina.
The police again? Let's face it, everyone in authority is in the pay of that three-headed master. Even the flipping president.
There must be somewhere that deals with environmental disasters.
He said, scanning his notes.
Ah yes, this number will do. Can I borrow your phone, Margalo?
And Maggrumph agreed.
Make sure you don't use up all my free credits, though.
She said.
Why?
Asked Hermione jovially.
Who do you have to speak to? Plus the universe might not last very far into next month if our worries are right. Maybe that will entitle you to a refund.
Shrugging, Margalo handed a phone over.
I've got it on hands-free.
Deadpanned Archelaus, letting the device bob up and down in the air currents as he removed his robotic limbs and turned up an anti-gravity device.
I'm calling from a borrowed phone.
Mekkion continued.
I'd like to report an environmental disaster I'd like you to investigate.
I leaned in to make sure I could hear everything.
Can you describe it?
Asked the operator.
Yes,
Said Archelaus.
it's a rectangular device with numbers on it, used for contacting people.
The line clicked off.
Hello? Hello? They hung up.
Said the Mekkion helplessly.
They didn't want you to describe what the phone looked like.
Said Bettina, slapping her three foreheads theatrically.
They meant the weed. Oh, really, Archelaus, you're so literal sometimes.
Not literal.
He said.
I would say the word configurative is a more apt description. Well, so much for that then.
Oh dear, said Lando, looking at his watch. We're late for our second shift at work, so it will have to wait. Universal apocalypse or not, we have responsibilities now.
Oh no,
Groaned Hermione.
I've forgotten about that. How could we be patient listening to other people's minor problems when we know about the biggest crisis to all of life, since the last one is taking place right under us?
Hey,
Said Elfrida, stopping so suddenly Lando walked into the back of her and fell on top of Squash.
that's how we talk to people. Real people, I mean, not government officials or departments. Just think about what we've got that the lot in charge haven't got.
Miserable abject poverty,
Asked Hermione.
a sense of futility, sticker books.
We have a means of talking to citizens of the universe.
Said Elfrida.
Actual citizens, too. People like you and me, worried how they're going to pay the bills, worried about what's happening to the universe, worried about possible future outbreaks of war, worried about what the universe will leave for our children and grandchildren. People who aren't just going to be bribed into silence.
So,
Asked Bettina.
there's rather a lot to worry about right now.
Exactly.
Said Elfrida.
And what do people do when they're worried? Welcome to the ball.
Squeaked Jake.
Eat comfort food.
Asked XXXXX.
Both of those.
Said Elfrida.
But if we get enough numbers, they also get together and do something about it. They make a stand and tell people they are wrong. If they do that enough times around the universe, then the crooked politicians and elites get scared enough to do something about it. And if we don't do enough, then we just talk some more, until every planet knows about redweed.
Better than that.
Said Archelaus, grinning.
Remember those adverts? They've turned us into celebrities without knowing it. All we have to do is change our stories to what's really going on.
Yes, said Robin, jumping up and down. Let's do it. Let's tell the whole universe. So we did. Surprising FF by turning up both early and enthusiastic. We hit the phone lines and connected like never before. Even me. I'm sorry you're worried about losing weight, diddy, I said. But whatever you do, don't buy those awful redweed pills out there. I hear they're poisonous and they're threatening the planet. I'm sorry your foosball team lost, Mrs. Habridat. What's that? A rumble? No, I don't think it's a celebration by a winning team. It's a volcano going off. Have you heard about redweed? Yes, Mr. Blinkington smiled forward. Earth is in a terrible state. I fear it might be about to get worse, though. Have you heard about redweed? Oh, I'm sorry about your drains, really I am. But this might affect them too. Listen. Mrs. Belobrat, I'm so glad you're ringing. You're just the amazing, incredible, erudite being I wanted to talk to today. Listen, there's this thing called redweed. And when we ran out of people calling, we made our own calls, using the numbers that had called in last time. After asking people how they were, we immediately got underway telling them why we were ringing. We found that, with us having listened so patiently to them last time, they were happy to listen and help in return. Behind me, the others were talking too. Even Squash, despite the fact that there were no callers from Agrosia. Instead, he took any spare calls left over. The hours shot past in double quick time. To our surprise, most people were not only interested in our plight, but shared our worries about this new epidemic of redweed that was suddenly everywhere, on every planet, and everyone seemed to be talking about. However, no one wanted to be the first person to share their doubts, and they also trusted that it must be safe, or that many people wouldn't have been fooled into taking it, so nobody had said anything until we got involved. We talked about what had happened to us in the recent past, what was happening to us now, our fears for the future. We spoke of how those we trusted had let us down, invested in short-term profit despite long-term loss, and explained our worries about what this might lead to next. We asked people to think, to question everything they were putting into their bodies, and to stay strong until this mess could be put right once we had someone in charge we trusted again. We were mightily relieved to have got the message out, so that we had at least warned a few people who might well have ended up taking redweed. But time and again, we kept getting the message. What can I do about it? I'm no one. I don't even have that many friends or family or colleagues, which is why I wanted to phone this helpline and talk to you. We could do no more than tell them they were enough, and that they were invaluable, and oh so important in our quest to get this awful thing stopped. FF was most astonished when we asked to work a double shift without taking a lunch break, especially XXXX.
Are you quite well?
He asked.
I can't offer you any extra money, I'm afraid. The budget will only stretch for an hour.
That's quite all right. Capitalist systems are an arbitrary side effect of an out-of-touch feudal system that causes the growth of parasitical elite that's evidence of an archaic structure that really ought to be changed and redesigned fairly,
said Elfrida absent-mindedly.
Plus we really enjoy the work.
If you're sure.
Said FF, scratching his head and leaving us to it. Eventually all our calls from 10 of the 11 worlds answered. We walked out, shaking our heads, said FF, as he offered us our paychecks.
Job satisfaction is plenty,
Said Bettina. The Doosbury Giant looked most surprised.
Right, I enjoyed that. I think we've got a few tongues wagging round the universe now. What we put out there will take time to filter through, though. What we really need is a global audience. Something people who aren't necessarily interested in politics will be interested in. Any ideas?
Robin pointed behind them to the crowds milling around the Olympic Park for the big finale.
There's an idea,
she said. An hour later we were reunited with Wurwa, who had finished her training and was sharing a quick bite to eat with us in the Doosbury locker room. Of course her idea of a quick bite to eat was different to most of ours, and soon only she and XXXX were left eating.
So do you think you can get us in the stadium?
Asked Bettina. Wurwa nodded, in between bites of carbohydrates.
Nothing simpler,
She said.
QQQ is so pleased I'm back, he'll let me fill the players' box with earthly gingerbread men if he thinks we'll win the match. Hey, maybe that's not a bad idea for a half-time snack. Saves us coming back to the locker room.
What do we do when we're inside, though?
Asked Hermione.
We do what we do best,
Said Bettina.
and what we were always being told off for in school, making a fuss and drawing attention to ourselves. How do we disrupt sport events on your home planets, people? I'll start with you, Penguin.
Robin shivered. No, thank you. It's a bit cold for streaking,
Streak it.
began Bettina.
Okay, humans are weird. Forget I asked you. Next.
She pointed at me. We stand up and filibuster as long as possible, I wrote.
Nah,
Said Bettina.
they already did that in one of the books we were studying. It didn't seem to work. Next. We have a proper lion protest,
Said Hermione.
We go to sleep in the middle of a pitch and never wake up again. We don't want to stop them playing altogether.
Said Bettina.
That would just make us the baddies. Next.
We threaten to beat up everyone unless they listen to us,
Said Margaret.
Too aggressive.
Said Bettina.
We throw pies at people and have a food fight.
Said XXXX.
Still too aggressive.
Said Bettina.
We bash everything in sight until people listen to it.
Said Squash.
Way too aggressive.
Said Bettina.
We hold hands, sing songs and dance until people listen to us,
Said Lando.
Not aggressive enough.
Said Bettina.
We need people to have a reason for looking at us instead of thinking we're having a party on the pitch.
Hang on, though, said Robin, almost to herself. We could use their tactics against them. They've sort of made us famous now with those adverts, even if it's for something we didn't want and isn't true. You saw the crowds when we walked away from the shuttle. Only this time we can use people filming us to our advantage instead of theirs.
Yes, we get creative.
Said Elfrida.
Create some huge banners the way Robin and I did to cheer on the human athletes, but this time pointing out everything wrong with red weed. If people recognise us, they'll think we're advertising more red weed and hopefully listen to us.
Said Bettina.
That's a start. Anyone else?
We could show how dangerous red weed is with a little demonstration on the pitch's surface.
Said Archulus.
When we open up one of the jars and heat up the contents, then pour it on the grass, it should burn a massive hole in the turf. We'll choose a corner nearer the camera's though, so we don't disrupt play too much. We just make a point. If everyone sees the very aliens in the advert turning against our product, that might make people sit up and take notice.
That sounds promising.
Said Bettina.
Especially if we write out what's happening on the banner so everyone knows what it's about.
I think I have something that might help too.
Said Archulus.
Would someone pass me that butter knife? Well, I plug it into this baked potato, there should be enough juice for an ad hoc power pack.
What are you doing?
Asked Bettina. XXXX barking in protest as the Mekkion took away part of his dinner.
There!
Said Archulus finally.
Remember the walkie-talkies we had at Orpheus? I've remodelled them so that they both act as loudspeakers. All we have to do is chant into them, the whole universe should be able to hear us.
Do you want me to take part too?
Asked Wubberworth deferentially.
No,
Said Bettina.
we're not having you forfeit your game. Not when you've worked so hard to be here. We're just going to delay it a little. Once we know everyone is watching.
Asked Jake, worried.
Hopefully.
Said Bettina.
Then will be a giant televised court case. We can tell everybody all about this.
I'm too very cute to go to prison.
wailed Jake, rolling up into a ball. It won't come to that, said Lander quickly. Promise. When everyone finds out that we were trying to save him, they're going to thank us, not incarcerate us. And if we don't do something, they'll incarcerate us anyway. Put a hoof out on the table. We all followed suit, putting our flippers, hands, paws, claws, wings and robotic limbs in.
Goodbye for now, children,
called Wurr as she was ushered away post-meal.
I hope you can watch me and get people to listen to you. But whatever you do, stay safe. You too,
said XXXX, looking up at her as she ruffled his head.
Don't worry,
called QQQ.
We won't let anything happen to her this time.
We were alone together, without adults again. Usually that would be a good thing, no, a great thing, but this time we weren't safely ensconced on some distant planet, but vulnerable and alone, unprotected against enemies who had made it clear they would go to any length to stop us. We had created 11 different banners to best relate to the specific audience from each of our planets. Margalo's squash and Bettina's were blunt and simple. Elfrida's was highly artistic and eye-catching. Archelaus is full of technical jargon. Mine was full of lots of tiny bullet points I knew my Camalosians would freeze frame and magnify to read at their leisure. Robin's and Lando's were emotional and scrawled in huge handwriting. Jake's was full of neat, tidy letters, and XXX had recipes scribbled all over it and had a hole out of the corner where he'd taken a bite out of it. When put together, at the top, the banner read, "Red weed is bad for your health and your planet's health. Don't take it. It's poisonous. Ah!" The R had been added by Squash, with a drawing of an Agrosian clutching his throat and dying. He had been surprised when Bettina had okayed it as being just aggressive enough. Our work done, we looked at each other with worry in our eyes, scanning our banners.
Does anyone else feel uneasy about this?
Asked Bettina as we walked out towards the foosball pitch.
This is scary,
said Jake, rolling himself up and nearly being mistaken for a foosball by one of the players.
To think, scoffed Margalo, we could be safe in some classroom somewhere right now, instead of risking our lives to people who probably won't even realise the danger we're in.
It shouldn't be up to us,
sniffed Jake.
We shouldn't have such responsibility so young. Who else, though? We have to do it,
said Elfrida.
Or at least try. From what Archie says, we might not have much of the universe left to grow up in.
No, said Lander, putting a protective hoof around as many of us as he could fit. Fierce for only the second time since I've known him. It's all going to be fine now. You know what happens in all the great stories we've been telling each other. It all seems to be going wrong, but then it all comes right at the end. Gwilwywir is going to win the match. They're going to be crowned champions. She's going to tell our story, make us famous. Then everyone is going to be safe.
Yeah,
sighed Hermione.
Right.
We had arranged for the match to be in full swing before we made our move, so settled down to watch for last-minute preparations. Gwilwywir was in her element, completing her final training in record-quick time as she took part in the traditional Doosbury Giant warm-up events of bagel tossing, donut throwing, baguette fencing, and pizza discus. Over on the other side, their competitors, the Glabdiharbits, were all packed into a communal sauna, something we now knew meant that the red weed was being activated inside their systems. Before long, we were all sat in the players' box in a jam-packed stadium, one eye alerted to any sudden movement from the crowds or outside, in case anyone tried to stop us or Woolwywir. To our relief, though, all seemed to be as normal. Both teams came out onto the pitch, smartly dressed in their uniforms, small furry and brown for the Glabdiharbits, and bibs dressed in the colours of Neapolitan ice cream for the Doosbury Giant. We gasped, though, when we saw the official sponsors of both jackets. Red weed, for all your sporting needs, with a smiling picture of Jake on one set of shirts, and XXXX on the others. Not here too, moaned Robin.
Talk about hiding in plain sight,
sighed Bettina, as Jake squeaked at seeing his face up close, and XXXX got sniffly at seeing his. In the background we could hear the strains of the BC commentators in the background.
On the Belobrat, BC News here, in a sensational turnaround, the final match of the last event that seems set to be cancelled after the non-appearance of leading Doosbury Giants player Willowwell has been reinstated at the last minute after a sudden reappearance. Where has she been? Our eyewitness reports say that she looks very thin and pale after her experience. Whatever it is, but she's striding onto the pitch with a big smile on her face, so it looks as if everything has been solved now. With me in the booth to speculate is my co-commentator, Habridat. Isn't this exciting? Such a tense final to the Intergalactic Olympics, as everything depends on who wins this final match.
snored Habiba before she woke up with a start.
What? I thought this flight was cancelled,
She said.
What's happening, Bob? Amazing insight there, as always.
Drawled the Belobrat.
Well, here they come, walking up to the stand now. Woolaway looking very confident as she stands in the middle, batting the foosball away from the Glabdiharbit with her stick. She's running down the pitch serenely, avoiding one, now two, now three Glabdiharbit attacks. She's raising her back legs for the final kick. It's an almost certain goal this, with just one tiny Glabdiharbit in goal, currently running away from the ball. But hang on, what's this? That Glabdiharbit wasn't running away at all. They're going backwards to gain momentum. He's now running at the ball, really fast, scooting it out of Woolaway's feet at the last moment and throwing it to his teammates with his tail. It's a goal! Out of nowhere! 1-0 to the Glabdiharbit. The crowd is squeaking wildly. The players have rolled up into a giant ball on the pitch. It's heartbreak for the Doosbury Giant team, who have been called over by their coach and handed some comfort food. And they're off again, and it's another sensational goal for the thorough visitors from Glabdiharbit. Look at their tiny furry feet go as they run rings around the Doosbury Giants with super agile strength. And another goal. And another. Who would have thought this tiny squeaky team would have such abilities, ones that they haven't demonstrated in any previous match? The Doosbury Giants are the favourites to win this match, we just can't get into it at all.
Yelled Jake loudly, before getting a look from the rest of us and curling up into a ball.
Peer pressure related to unexpected victory is scary,
He squeaked. No, sobbed XXXX into a giant handkerchief that smelt of marshmallows.
Go Giants! Alright, class, said
Bettina.
Something very odd is going on here. I've been around a lot at Glabdiharbit, and I've only ever known them run that fast on 4 occasions. When the planet has been invaded, when they're on fire, when we're about to be sat on, or when they've ingested extra fuel. They're clearly on redweed, despite Robbie having spectacularly knocked it over earlier.
Look here, dear, said Lando as kindly as he dared. I know we're all loyal to Woolaway, but maybe the other team are just better on the day. Our star player has just been through a life-changing event after all.
No,
Said Elfrida thoughtfully.
it's something more than that. The Doosbury Giants aren't even getting a chance to play. The Glabdiharbit's reactions are far too quick. It's almost as if they've been hypnotised or...
Don't.
Said Archness grimly.
Somehow we've got hold of some more.
The Glabdiharbits were busy celebrating their 49th goal. The Doosbury Giants were looking dejected. Archness was looking at his watch.
Quick,
He said,
before this match gets so one-sided everyone turns off.
We tied up blotchy close to the pitch, then we split into two, rushing on to the two furthest corners of the pitch where the largest cameras were. Archelaus taking one walkie-talkie and handing the other to Bettina as we parted. From the other end of the pitch, Woolaway saw us and nodded. Archelaus made sure the cameras were on him and took the red weed straight out of a bottle with his face on it, adding it to his Bunsen burner and showing the camera as it boiled over into a sticky red goo that ran down the sides and burnt straight through the woven grass pitch, causing the ground to rumble and shake as it did so. Between us we took our banners and unfurled them, running as we went so that we covered the whole pitch. Woolaway ushering the Doosbury players to the sides, while down the other end we scooped up all the squeaky Glabdiharbit players and pushed them into touch. Bettina started up a walkie-talkie.
No need for redweed. Redweed is poisonous. Redweed is toxic. Redweed kills. We're the children from the advert, and we say, stop taking it now.
Archelaus started up his chant.
Check the science. Redweed has caused untold damage to the health of all 11 species and has caused every planet on which it has been manufactured to become unstable. Do you hear that rumbling?
He said as a group of Glabdiharbit policemen tried to catch him and fell over. The same was happening down to Bettina down the other end. Just as both of them were being held to the floor, they both threw their walkie-talkies to the next in line, Elfrida and Jake. The Mrasianart started speaking.
Our ancestors look on what we are doing with alarm and suspicion. Our future children will thank us for breaking Redweed's evil curse. Even now our very souls are entombed and entrapped by this impending catastrophe.
Next was the Glabdiharbit.
I spent most of my life afraid, and nothing is as scary as Redweed. It's going to kill us all. Pour the bottle down the sink quick. This is no time to hide under the table. Act now.
Next up, XXXX and Margaret.
Redweed is far worse than giving you an upset tummy. It kills from the inside out. Be careful what you're putting in your mouth.
You don't need redweed. It was created by companies for pure greed. It's bad for you and your planet. All the governments will worship banner.
As the Doosbury Giant and Maggrumph were tackled to the floor, they chucked their walkie-talkies to Hermione and Lando.
This message is so important, I actually woke up to tell you. Don't take redweed, it's dangerous.
Clans all over the universe, come together and unite in ridding the universe of this awful toxic stuff. If in doubt, just ask yourself what money people are making and if they are thinking of themselves rather than the greater good.
Overheard on the BC News, I could hear the commentary continue.
This is extraordinary, sports fans. I'd heard about this sort of thing on Earth. We didn't expect to see it in an international game such as this. And what an important one too. Such manners from these children. They should be back in the classroom, not running on the pitch. I have to say I'm enjoying all the passing of walkie-talkies going on though. It reminds me of a game of foosball I once saw between the Habridat heroes and the Belobrat Broncos in 2417.
But now the three of us remaining had been herded into the middle of the pitch. Squash just got a single sentence out as policeman after policeman rolled on top of him.
Trash! Redweed is trash! It was created purely for cash!
That left Robin and I stranded in the middle of the pitch, with nowhere to go, holding hands in the face of the oncoming policeman.
Go you too, cried
Bettina from the floor underneath a large Clandusprod constable.
Walk and talk like never before.
Glancing at each other, worried, for we were each of us uncomfortable with a good half of the task before us. Robin and I decided to work together instead of apart, so we held hands and danced away from the policeman. I all but carrying Robin as she held onto my tail and roared into the machine. Please listen to us. The people who make redweed don't care about you or your health. They only care about your wealth. They've tested on us without asking, and some of us have gotten very ill. My own family have been killed by redweed. We were children on the labels and we were used against our will. They are risking our lives to bring you this message. Don't trust what it says on the label. Don't trust the free headmaster. Don't trust what they tell you about making money from it. The only people to make money are the shady world leaders in it for their own power and riches. They don't care about us. And check the athletes for it. In all species, redweed doesn't show up in tests and gives an unfair advantage. Well, for a while anyway, then it kills you. It's damaging to every species, every planet. None of us are safe. Do the right thing. Bid it today. Demand better from your governments. Let's vow to never again take anything we haven't tested thoroughly. By now we had vaulted past dozens of policemen and were still going, the cameras following our every move as Robin acted like a jockey on my back as we twisted this way and that as she continued to tell our story about what had happened to us and how dangerous this substance was. By now there was a murmuring of dissent in the crowd and various bottles of redweed began to be thrown in anger onto the side of the pitch. In a masterstroke, Robin then began to hand out the contact numbers of the people we had spoken to on our helpline, those ordinary citizens who wanted to help our struggle but didn't know how, urging people to ring them up so they could pass on all the details we had told them. We could hear the mood in the crowd shift, from a riotous, oblivious escapism of most big mass sporting events to something quieter, more worried, concerned, self-conscious, righteous. Even the commentators had moved on to address our concerns.
Well, these children seem to be pretty adamant about this redweed stuff, don't they? I guess this is more than just a classroom prank after all. It needs looking into, I say. I mean, it's one thing telling me it's going to burn both my insides and my home planet, and it's giving an unfair advantage to one of the teams. Well, it has to be looked at and stopped, doesn't it? In an unfair universe, the only fair thing left is sport. When that goes wrong, it hurts us all, just like the times in history when people were found to have cheated. The Abu Dhabi Formula 1 Grand Prix of 2021 when Lewis Hamilton was robbed of an 8th world title. The 3-1-4-3 Wazula final when the Glabdiharbits had buried a trampoline under half their pitch. And the foosball finals of 3-2-05 when the Agrosians set the pitch alight. After the break we'll be in touch with the Intergalactic Olympic Committee to see what they have to say about it all and demand a thorough investigation. Then we'll see whether there'll be any replays.
By the time the inevitable happened, one policeman catching hold of my tail and Robin falling off into another policewoman's hooves, we could feel good that we'd done our job as best we could. We were species handled onto the side of the pitch and into a room on the side so that play could be resumed. But even though the Giants were still losing, we could see Woowa was smiling and waving at us in victory, and that made us feel better. We were now in the custody of what seemed to be a Habridat police force. Handcuffs were being placed on our wrists, hooves, claws, paws and robotic limbs, with special wing cuffs to stop Elfrida and Hermione flying away. The Habridats had puffed out after all that work though, and after securing us all, decided to knock off for a tea break and a nap, leaving us alone again.
Well done, Penguin and Collins,
said Bettina, beaming with all three heads.
That was amazing. The way you weave between all the police forces. I just kept yelling and running. It must have done some good.
Yes,
Whispered Elfrida.
that was a masterstroke handing over those phone numbers. Now the conversation we were having can continue, even if we aren't there to have it.
Do you think the three-head monster saw us first?
Squeaked Jake.
He did say he would take us out if we caused trouble.
I doubt it was his foosball somehow.
Scoffed Margalo.
Something more violent, I should think.
We had as close as we could get to a group hug while we were confined together. Suddenly, we were being nuzzled by a familiar face.
Bloodshed,
Cried Bettina.
somebody must have let you off your lead. Well done for finding us, boy. Now see if you can chew through these ropes.
I bet it's Woolworth.
Said XXXXX.
She knows that we needed him.
But she wasn't keen on the taste of the ropes, but slowly made progress on the one securing Bettina's middle arm. With that one free, she was able to untie her other two arms, and then moved on to untie the rest of us, until we were all free and hugging properly now.
Right, gang,
Said Bettina.
how do we get out of here?
Leave it to me, said Robin, checking that the keys were in the other side of the door. Oh, does anybody have a book? This must be a Doosbury door, as it's a very thick one. We found that 11 sticker books, 10 sports, 1 politics, tied together with the ropes that had once been around us, were just long enough to reach to the other side of a really thick door. OK, cool, said Robin, opening the door slowly. We're free. What do we do now? Go on the run again? Bettina looked back at the pitch.
I reckon it will be too dangerous to stay here. We have to flee to the shuttle. Oh, I'm sorry we didn't even get a chance to say goodbye to Woolworth.
Manda put a comforting hoof on XXXX's shoulder. We have to run away to somewhere and regroup until it all calms down. Of course, we don't want it to calm down too much. Maybe we'll come back to Decreeta someday, though. Hermione sighed.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting worn out from all this running and flying. I'm always beginning to miss being ensconced in our nice safe classroom where we only had wicked tyrants trying to poison us and homework, rather than the fate of the universe resting on our shoulders.
Giddy with success, we decided to make our way back to the shuttle. Keeping to the shadows so we wouldn't be spotted and handed in to the police, we made our way to where we had parked. As we walked, we heard crowds cheering and chanting in the distance. Some of them were chanting for the winning foosball team, but others seemed to be chanting over and over again. Coming round corners, we saw more and more humans out cheering, with earth banners and flags hung on everyone's door. What's going on? Asked Robin.
The match must be over,
Said Bettina.
It's time for the Intergalactic Olympic closing ceremony. It's due to be the most watched event in intergalactic history. What a colossal promotion for Redweed that'll be. Looking at all the flags, I'd say humans won it.
Wait, said Robin. We won. The whole thing.
Probably. You were statistically in line to winning. Doosbury Giants lost that match.
Said Archlet.
I guess they did.
Well done, Penguin.
Said Bettina.
I guess your species isn't so hopeless after all.
But how come? Asked Robin. I mean, we didn't seem to be winning anything. Not even cricket. And we invented that.
You didn't win anything.
Said Archlet.
However, most people who won their own sports clocked up really bad scores on the other events because it was so unsuited to them. Humans were merely mediocre at the whole bang lot of them, which was just enough to give him the Endecagon medal. Well done, Penguin, for being not as bad as everyone else without actually being any good at anything.
Oh, said Robin, clearly not quite sure how to take that news. Thank you, I think. Very well done, Robin, said Lando. It takes skill to be merely average in all sports.
Let's hear it for the most mediocre species in the universe.
Yelled Bettina, patting Robin on the back hard.
I'm impressed.
Said Margalo sincerely.
On those spindly, weavly legs too. Who would have thought it?
Yay us, said Robin, confused, as the rest of us set about laughing. What sort of trophy do we get? They still hadn't decided what sort of prize we'd get by the time I left for Orpheus. To be honest, we weren't expecting to win.
It depends on the planet,
Said Archelaus, tapping into the Universal.
Everyone gets to choose what form their winning prize consists of. As your Earth people, you get a big cup, I think, for your interstellar trophy cabinet.
OK, cool, said Robin.
I approve.
Said Bettina.
A cup is very big-headed and show-offy. We would have got a giant medal for each of our heads.
We would have had medals for our antlers.
Said Margalo.
We would have had a celebration banquet.
Said XXXX. Said Jake.
A golden hammock.
Said Hermione.
A golden robot.
Said Archelaus.
A gold spear,
said Squash. A gold inkstand, I wrote.
A simple certificate, their existential emptiness and worry about how we might follow it up,
said Elfrida. Nothing, beamed Lando. For taking part and being in a team is all that really matters.
Goody two-shoes,
Laughed Bettina.
Well, here we are at the shuttle.
Oh, wait, said Lando. I meant to tell you, the shuttle's not here. The Friends Against the Red Weed went and hid it to keep us safe.
Friends of the what's it, who's it?
Asked Hermione.
Nonsense.
Said Bettina.
You're imagining things again, Lando. I can see part of it peeking over the bushes right there. It's the lack of sunstroke on this planet it's getting to it. Wait, there shouldn't be any of it peeking through the bushes. I sorted that myself, but it was parked properly and hidden quite brilliantly, if I say so myself.
Suddenly Blotchy began barking madly and then ran off, audibly biting someone hard. In the distance, like it was happening in a dream, I heard a familiar voice shouting, "Ow, I knew getting that Archibald was a mistake. What a failed experiment he turned out to be."
Something's not right. In my intuition, I sense it.
Started Elfrida. But she was too late. Before we knew what was happening, we were all being knocked out by toxic fumes. Someone had been boiling red weed here, and the fumes were filling the hut quickly. Watching my friends slump around me, willing myself to fight on and not lose consciousness, I thought I saw a figure with two antlers laughing at us. And everything went suddenly black, as if I'd spilled my entire ink collection over the whole universe.
Comfortable?
Asked Mrs. Maggrumph.
That's a shame. I was hoping to inflict more pain.
Absolutely, grinned Mr. C, walking up and down between us, where 10 of us were tied up. I had just enough room to write with my left leg, and just enough leeway to drop some paper to the floor for my records. Death is too good for these snooping children, if you ask me. Look at everything we've done to take our rightful fortune away from us, and after we worked so hard for it too. Running away just as we were on a breakthrough in testing and didn't need you anymore, rescuing Olympic athletes who tried to raise the alarm, trying to warn the cop-out conference about us indeed, going on international TV to blow our story.
Where are we?
Asked Bettina, dazed.
Back at Orpheus.
Grinned Mrs. Maggrumph.
But you're on top most devious.
What are you talking about?
Said Bettina.
It was our last test to see which species would take to red wheat the best. Then she came free and wandered off hell for leather.
She frowned.
We weren't expecting you to work together.
You did quite well, said Mr. C, but not as well as us. You see, we were ahead of you every step of the way. The cop-out conference had already been taken care of by our leader, with the 3 heads. The people on Oceanus were warned you might be coming, and they, left you a little present. We weren't expecting a pitch invasion, though. That wasn't part of any of our tests.
Nonsense,
Scoffed Bettina.
We did all of that ourselves. You two-faced, two-antlered so-and-sos, and for once having more faces isn't a Belobrat compliment. You haven't got a clue what children would really do. Adults never do. We're always wiser, smarter, and more of a team than we're given credit for, because adults couldn't possibly think of doing what we do.
Hardly true,
mused Mrs. Maggrumph.
but it helps if you had a clue.
She moved aside.
Wait,
Said Bettina.
Margalo?
The Maggrumph was untied and smiling at her mother's side.
That's right.
She said.
I'm the face of New Seed, a new product from the new manufacturers of red weed. It does everything the old product could do, but it's better, because it's blue. We're going to be rich.
You absolute bit.
Started Hermione before she got cut off. That's right, smiled Mr. C. Say hello to the new face of our new product. We're going to make out that the rest of the class retired, but Margalo's going to broadcast around the universe to all planets at once. Red weed never had bad. We have our broadcasts all set up and ready to go. You didn't know part of this school building was a giant international satellite, did you? I've upgraded Margalo's phone so she could broadcast anywhere at any time. We made sure we held all the cards here in case we ever needed to go, independent. We're going to phase our red weed rivals out the market, and because we have Margalo, we're going to make endless live appearances promoting Blue Seed. It's the same stuff, of course, just dyed a different colour. Genius! This plan is foolproof. We were all gaping, still taking in this turn of events. Oh, don't look at me like that. You don't think Margalo was really your friend, did you? Not the daughter of the infamous Grey Twins, the scariest scallywags in the universe. You had a mole with you the whole time.
No, why?
Said Jake.
It's scary.
Not that sort of a mole, snarled Mr. C. Didn't you ever go to school? Oh, wait, I guess you didn't. Not a proper one. No, I mean Margalo here was working undercover as a spy. What? Said most of us, while Lando added, How could you, Margalo? We trusted you. We were nice to you, even after you've been mean to us.
I knew it,
sighed Hermione.
Life is so much simpler if you don't trust anybody.
You trusted all of us, didn't you? Asked Lando.
Yeah,
sighed Hermione.
I also trusted you'd all get me into trouble one of these days, and you did.
You don't chatter,
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
What do you think? Doesn't matter.
But why? Asked Robin. We've already told people the truth about redweed. They won't be taking it anymore. There's nothing you can do to stop that. Turning it blue just means you'll have to start all over again with a universe that's now disillusioned and cynical.
A minor obstacle, admitted Mr. Clandusprod. What you don't seem to understand is how long we've been planning this, Mrs. Maggrumph and I. We have suffered in poverty for too long, while lesser creatures get to live lives of luxury. From the minute we were hired as part of the Redweed Research and Development Programme, we knew that we didn't just want to pay our bills, but make our fortune. That's why we made you the faces of our brand, all 11 of you, so that if we lost one or two in the trials, it didn't matter too much. Now we have you, we can cut out the middlemen, the free headmasters, and the cop-out people. If we hold you, we hold the last card, perhaps the best card. Soon even the people who manufacture this stuff at such a profit will have to pay us for the right to use you. All you'd have to do would be to take back everything you said and promote our new brand instead. Yes,
added Mrs. Maggrumph.
we will finally get to be top of the pyramid, and it's all thanks to you kids.
But if we don't want to work with you,
said Bettina crossly.
We've already disrupted your wicked scheme once. We could do it again.
Margalo was willing. She was always my favourite. Very well behaved in class, coughed Mr. Clandusprod, and Maggrumph simpered, sickeningly. Mrs. Maggrumph lowered her antlers, threateningly.
What bothers now is covering up our tracks and watching the evidence go splat. We only need one of the kids who is on the team. Doesn't matter what happens to the rest, you see. We have made our millions and sold the redweed to billions and quadrillions. We're going to destroy this building inside and out, but you're still in it. No one will hear you shout.
I'd like to see you try. Nosh, nosh, nosh,
said Squash, rushing forward, only to find himself tied to the chair legs and sprawling onto the ground.
Sorry, didn't I make that clear?
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
You're all trapped in here. I've taken limited physical retention, as you will stay and suffer permanent detention.
You wouldn't dare, said Lando. Even you aren't that despicable, you kill children.
It's your us,
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
Don't make such a fuss. You could still live if you work for us, even if it's under duress. I couldn't care less if you live or make a mess. Out there are billions of kids, only some of you are destined to be remembered for what you did. The rest of you are doomed to lose. I'm so glad I'm not in your shoes.
Yes, said Mr. C. You're all that stands in front of us, and quadzillions, and we don't strictly need you. We've got more footage of you from the past 10 days than we ever dreamed of, and plenty of it showing you being brave, courageous and heroic. That's enough to keep us in adverts for the next, 50 years. Everyone will be buying redweed, blue seed, and it's all thanks to you. He dropped his voice. Of course, there's always a way out for you all. There was a pause as no one wanted to take his bait. Come back on our side, shoot more adverts with us, pretend to be happy children, and then you will be for real, for you'll be alive. All we ask in return is that you agree to denounce the efforts the rest of you made on Decreeta, telling everyone about the side effects of redweed. You could just say you were wrong, but it was all a silly mistake. People would believe that. You're just a bunch of kids after all. There was silence. Mrs. Maggrumph took up the narration.
You already got this choice of my daughter on waking up. Well, I thought I ought to. Maggrump's skull's then suffering badly from concussion, but there wasn't much of a discussion. She didn't want to be blown apart. She was always very smart. She always aced every test, and her homework was always the best.
Elfrida coughed.
I think Alfie and I might have had something to do with that,
she said.
The only reason Margalo ever got top marks was in an effort to please you.
Mrs. Maggrumph looked perturbed.
Is this true?
She demanded of Margalo, while the girl cowered underneath her.
Don't you dare cry, or this time you'll be lying to me. Why?
So you didn't do all this, said Margalo, waving her arms.
It doesn't take much to say you are. I just wanted you to like me and to have a quieter life. You twit, you're more of a scaredy cat than a Glabdiharbit. I'm not sure you're worth saving at all, in fact,
said Mrs. Maggrumph.
but as you're the only one still standing, your coward has actually saved you. Remember that?
Yes, whimpered Margalo quietly, her head bowed.
You don't have the means to blow us up,
Said Bettina.
they're just empty threats, as usual.
Don't be so sure.
One last appeal, said Mr. C, walking round the class. Join us, or it will be the worst for you. Before our mission, which started with a whimper, ends with a bang. He chuckled at his own in-joke, ignoring our oblivious expressions. Oh, of course, you don't understand the threat you're in. Let me demonstrate. By now he was standing right next to Archulus. Without warning, he whipped away the Mekkion's heart covering and laughed as Archie struggled to cover up his modesty with tied arms.
Oi!
Was all he spluttered in response, when Mr. C reached in and held out a small round object tied to his outer casing with wires. It was a bomb.
This is a fine time to start your routine clock ticking, Archulus,
Snorted Bettina, who, being in the front row, couldn't see what was happening behind her.
What?
Said Archulus, shocked.
How did that get in there?
Mr. C laughed. Our friends on Oceanus got in touch to say there was a group of children pretending to be adults snooping around with a faulty robot. We weren't sure what you were going to do after leaving that planet. For all we knew, you'd sensed a bribe of business opportunity. We're going to start your own pyramid scheme we could take over. But of course you weren't. Children are never interested in the things that matter, like money.
On the contrary,
Spluttered Elfrida, horrified at what had been done to Archulus.
it's adults who get their priorities all skewed by greed and corruption and luxury. Their vision narrowed when they should be doing so much more to help all of us universally.
Anyway, carried on the Clandusprod unperturbed, when they saw Archulus and asked them to fix him or not, we said yes because we still thought we needed you for the adverts. But we also told them to plant a bomb inside you so that we could detonate any time you got to become too much of a nuisance at a distance anywhere across the universe. He drummed his fingers lightly on Archulus's chest as the Mekkion tried to back away from him.
What's happening?
Said Bettina, more annoyed at not being able to see than at what had been done to her friend.
Have they really put a bomb inside you?
How are you, Archulus? Called Lando.
I feel a bit sick if I'm honest.
Said the Mekkion.
And emotional.
He blew a fuse and his lights went out. The teachers laughed.
Let me!
Said Mrs. Maggrumph, reaching into the box where he kept his spare parts and fitted another one.
I found it particularly annoying, you see. I know it all showed me up in class when I hadn't a clue. I wanted to be awake for his last hour or two.
Archulus whirred back on.
Oh, that's better.
He said momentarily before his memory circuits came back online.
Wait, no it isn't. Oh.
He blew another fuse.
I could do it all day.
Said Mrs. Maggrumph, laughing.
And if he keeps acting like this, I'm dying.
She turned him on again.
Oh, that's better.
Said Archulus.
Wait.
Quick, yelled Robin. Archie, think of something relaxing and peaceful.
Yes,
Said Elfrida.
keep your eyes shut and don't let your memories flood you.
You're safe with the rest of us, said Lando. We're all together and we're looking after you.
Bah!
Said Mrs. Maggrumph as Archulus came back online without a problem this time.
You children don't let me have any fun. Well, come on, you two. I'll work here as me and done.
Margalo got up to go, but Mr. Clandusprod paused. One last chance. Take my advice and take it. Sell out your friends to save yourself, said Mr. C. We hold all the cards. Come join us. His calm demeanour suddenly exploded. For once we perishing children do what we say, you'll never do anything ever again. He moved round the tables, pointing at us in turn. You? He asked Hermione before going round the class in turn.
Yeah.
Said Hermione slowly and sarcastically.
Right. Of course we're going to help you, because you've always been so good to us and trustworthy.
The teacher's face turned an ugly shade of rouge.
Over our dead bodies.
Said Bettina, fully aware of what she was saying. We go together, or not at all, said Lando.
Dash, dash, dash. At least we'll go out with a splash.
Said Squash.
Logically, it might be right to go with you and fight another day, but my friends taught me to ignore logic when it comes to feelings in my heart.
Said Archulus. We won't be leaving, said Robin. You tripped up. Deal with it.
I'm scared, but not scared enough to leave my friends,
Said Jake.
Leaving now would make me feel like the middle of a ring donut.
Said XXXX.
Empty.
I still have faith that something will save us, said
Elfrida.
And it was my friends that gave me that faith again, not red weed, or blue seed, or any other illegal or immoral substance.
How about you, said Mr. C, at last, coming to my desk. You're so small and useless. I know you'll do anything to save yourself. You have the last chance to save everyone, Colin. Talk. I actually have the last word. The deciding vote. Our future existence, or otherwise, all came down to me. Everyone breathed in to pay me full attention. I thought for a few moments, opened my mouth to speak, and decided that no adult had the right to make me do something I didn't want to do. So instead, I took out my papers. No! I wrote in huge letters, in capitals, bold and underlined, as large and unarguable as I could make it. By now Mr. Clandusprod had gone round everyone, and still only Margalo stood alone at the front, her antlers cowed. Well, I tried. Then know that you bring this on yourselves, 5C, said Mr. C.
Class dismissed,
said Mrs. Maggrumph, smiling evilly.
because in a few hours you won't exist.
They both left and turned the lights out, Margalo trooping along wordlessly behind. By now the class were going through 11 different stages of shock and grief simultaneously.
Well, that was a fun school trip.
Hermione said sarcastically in the dark.
Can't wait for the next one. I wonder where we'll go next. A conference of axe-murderers, perhaps. Or a psychopath self-help group. Or maybe we'll have a nice relaxing time swimming with algebra piranha hybrids in a tank of acid. Or how about we explore a jungle planet and get set upon by saber-toothed Habridat eating tigers?
That was nasty so-and-sos.
Cried Squash.
I'd like to bash them all to bits for
Violently rocked his chair so much he rolled over and squashed himself instead.
Oh good, at least we got Squash back to normal, just in time for him to die,
said Hermione in a bitter mood.
What a successful week's work. Hooray for us.
Well,
Elfrida sighed.
it's been fun. I guess now, though, will none of us ever have the privilege of growing old. And it is a privilege. Not everyone gets to do that. Sometimes adults forget that, I think. Every last ache is a war wound. Every last wound a battle scar. I never understood why people saw age and experience as something to be embarrassed about. Or maybe everyone will have everything figured out by the time I'm reborn and come back round again. See you next reincarnation, everyone.
It looks as if I won't get to graduate school after all then, sighed Robin. I really thought things were going to be different this time. But no, I get blown up instead. Sorry, Mum and Dad. I failed you again.
I'm not scared.
Squeaked Jake defiantly.
Well, not much.
Has anybody got any spare food?
Said XXXX.
They say it's bad luck to die on an empty stomach on Doosbury.
I nudged my penultimate pencil I'd just discovered out of my pocket and rolled it with my body over to him, which he crunched with relish, as well as a sort of barbecue sauce. Any plans to get us out of this one, Bettina? Asked Lando, but the Belobrat just shook her head sadly. She was in any case still recovering from a betrayal of Margalo.
How could she do that? Betray us and walk out on us after everything we went through together? After everything we did for her? She is descended from one of the Grey Twins,
said Hermione.
It's in DNA. That makes sense. Let's face it, she was normal.
I still don't believe it, said Robin royally. She wasn't normal, but she was our kind of normal, by the end. Never mind her, Archulus, said Lando. How are you feeling? To our surprise, the Mekkion laughed.
I feel great. I've never felt better. Hey everyone!
He said, bobbing from side to side.
Does my bum look big in this? I couldn't do my maths homework today because it was at the therapist's. It had too many problems. And have you heard the one about the cross-eyed teacher? She couldn't control her pupils.
Oh, brother,
said Hermione.
Now I'm going to die listening to Bad Mekkion joke. This day just gets worse and worse.
The bomb must have lodged against his comedy circuit again,
said Elfrida.
Archie, concentrate really hard.
The voice faltered.
I need to say goodbye to you. Properly. Not like this.
Archelaus laughed.
What's the difference between an algebra on skates and a hang-gliding Habridat in a bad freeze frame? One falls on sore paws, and the other is paused in flawed saw.
I'm not listening to any more of this.
Said Squash, rolling over and pressing Archelaus to the floor. For one moment we heard the clock stop ticking, and we all froze in panic. But after a beat the clock just started ticking on again.
Thank you,
said a flattened Archelaus from underneath the Agrosian.
I feel more myself now.
I'm sorry, everyone, for letting you down,
said Bettina.
I know as your leader, I should have seen this coming, but I didn't. We shouldn't have risked everything the way we did.
Not your fault, said Landa quickly. I don't think those monsters were half as in control of us as they thought they were.
Really good,
squeaked Jake.
all of us. Till now, it was a good run. If we die, we do so nobly, having done everything in our power to stop an enemy bigger and more powerful than us. Somehow, I'm not scared anymore. Now it comes to it.
Yes,
said XXXX.
we were inseparable and stuck together like jam on toast.
Totally, said Robin. Those past 9 days have been the most eventful and fun of my life. Despite the near-death experiences, I wouldn't have had them any other way.
This wouldn't have been the same without meeting you all,
said a muffled Archelaus.
Although, of course, this wouldn't have happened at all had I not met you all. Fact.
At least they never divided us up and made us turn on one another,
said Hermione.
We held our faith in each other to the end. Even us, the 10 children who had nothing but each other.
We did good,
said Elfrida, who was growing more spiritual by the minute now our time seemed to be up.
Our ancestors are proud of us. I could hear them cheering from here. And sometimes losing is winning when it's for the right reasons. Good can't always triumph over evil, or it would be a very different universe, with no concept of free will, just people doing nice things for evil reasons. We would never learn and grow.
Elfrida sighed.
All that time we spent trying to escape from Orpheus and see the universe, and we end up getting stuck inside an even more confined space and dying before we were ready. That was my fear of growing up come true, when it happened, when I was still a child.
It was a privilege to lead you all,
said Bettina, sniffling emotionally from all 6 sides.
The best 9 friends a Belobrat could ever have. Fact.
She raised her hands in the air as much as the ropes allowed her to.
Friends forever.
We all did the same, feeble as it was. Friends to the end, said Robin quietly, whenever that end is. Silence returned to the classroom as we all sat with our thoughts, broken only by the distant ticking of Archelaus from underneath Squash. There was no chance for Robin to do her trick with her keys. She couldn't move her chair anywhere near the door. We had all run out of luck and instead just shivered in the near silence, together, yet lost in our own worlds.
Well, friends,
said Bettina finally,
it looks as if this is going to be a long night, and everyone seems to be out of ideas for escaping. This is our usual time for telling stories. I don't suppose anyone has an uplifting one we haven't told that might help us feel better about the spot we're in.
To our surprise, Squash nodded.
We Agrosians have a story that seems very appropriate that we tell in moments of great suffering. It is the story of one of our nameless worlds that was conquered by the royal dynasty of Agrosia, Queen Calixta's ancestors. You might all be able to take heart from it. Let me see if I can remember it properly. I'll be ready to if I can't. It is called War, then Peace, then War again.
Wait, asked Hermione.
Didn't you lose that war?
Why, yes,
said Squash.
We lost every war. That's why we ended up working for Queen Calixta.
Oh, brother,
said Hermione, rolling her eyes.
There's nothing like hearing about people losing a war when you're about to die to get the old optimism pumping.
Now are you sitting comfortably?
Asked Squash. From underneath him, Archelaus let out a muffled complaint.
Then let's begin. Once there was a planet called Bax Bellum. It was big and red and furry, but it was also an ice planet, and the crops were ice lollies. The people there lived simple lives. They mostly farmed and spread food amongst themselves in giant buckets. We had no concept of war because we had never had so much as a falling out with each other, until King Camalosian invaded them and stole their biggest red bucket for himself. He ordered them to refill it, and he would come back to collect it the next time his shuttle passed the planet, and that he would declare war if the bucket was not full. The people knew that there was barely enough food to go round, and that the invader and his army would just get greedier if they didn't stand up to him. So 3 renegades named Biff, Bang and Pow stole into the forest and hid. Every time the invaders went into the planet's centre to get the red bucket, the renegades were waiting to break into their spaceship and steal their own supplies, which came in packets. They were freeze-dried and could only be heated up with warm water, which the townsfolk got by holding the packets up to the ship's engines. They stole everything they could from the king's army when they weren't looking, taking all their supplies and spreading them amongst the people of their own planet so that they did not starve. The invaders had never thought that anyone could possibly steal from them because no one had ever dared stand up to them before. However, because both food sources went off very quickly and were meant to be eaten straight away, both sides found their meals had gone very stale, and because they cooled very quickly on this ice planet after cooking, they went very cold very quickly too. It was the first of our Cold Wars, which ended in a stalemate. The invaders began to realise that the villagers were worthy opponents, so they decided to take off again and look for planets which were easier to invade. Peace reigned again, and the idea of invading off-worlders became a local myth. After a few generations, though, the invaders grew greedy again, and Queen Felixola wanted to be recognised as the greatest ruler that ever lived. So she set out to take revenge on a planet that had defied her army like no other. She invaded the planet and went to steal their red bucket. They didn't want grain this time, though, for the Agrosian dynasty had long ago done away with needing food. Instead, she wanted to claim the big red bucket as a trophy to hang in their great hall of shame, commemorating all the species that they had conquered. What she hadn't expected was that the villagers had been inspired by the tales of war that had been spread by our ancestors, and they had decided that if any invaders ever came to take their planet back again, they wouldn't just steal their food, they would fight them to the death. So using a few materials cropped together from the planet's surface, they turned themselves into an army that were highly trained. However, because they spent so much time training for war, they no longer bothered with crops and buckets and grew thin and weak. The armies clashed terribly and fought for many days and nights. Neither of them satisfied. The Agrosian armies were confused, as no planet had ever fought back so hard before. And the locals were confused because they hadn't used a red bucket in generations and couldn't remember where they put it for the Agrosians to steal. Both sides wanted a truce, but none ever came because it was an unwinnable war with no buckets to win. This pointless war lasted 100 years, by which time the space shuttle had run out of petrol, and Queen Felixola had been overthrown by her younger brother, presumed lost somewhere in space. The two sides fought till the very final pair were left, one from each side. They discovered the bucket buried in a barn under decades of dust and cobwebs made by algebra spiders, and made a last-ditch stand for the bucket until they both kicked it. The bucket fell on them, and they were trapped. But they fell in love and made a pact to escape, which they did eventually by using a spade lying next to the bucket to dig their way out. In other words, war has been fought for much dafter reasons than the one we were fighting. We were fighting for noble causes and should not feel ashamed for losing, for it is those who fight wars for the wrong reasons who lose the respect of their successors long after the battles have been written about, discussed and analysed. If we are to be remembered by future generations, it will be with honour and gratitude that we did our very best to try to stop the unstoppable and delay the inevitable. Sometimes fighting as far as you can before losing is all good people can do, and there is no shame in that.
There was more silence while we took this in.
Well,
Said Hermione.
an Agrosian story that actually was uplifting. I guess you could knock that one off my bucket list.
Lights flickered behind us. It must be the space shuttle taking Mr. C and Mrs. Maggrumph away from Orpheus, leaving us stranded. So that was it. We'd each of us tried so hard to break free from this world and experience the freedom of the universe. But it had all been for nothing. For all our experiences, for all we'd learned about ourselves and each other, for all our daring plans and courage, there we were ensconced inside the same four walls again, whilst the adults held all the cards, the way they always did.